Alex, he just shows up to Chicago with fire. I mean, he was a molten piece of rock in a body.
To say that I was confident going into the first event would be an absolute lie.
It meant a lot just to see that boy hit that shot, dude. That was crazy.
San Diego Dynasty, 4 major events in a row.
It's a unique opportunity to be me on this team, you know?
A scrappy new squad here for the Ironman, taking down Dynasty, taking down X Factor. And here we go, Edmonton Impact and Legion to Edmonton Impact. They take 2 wins in a row.
Welcome to Go Sports Live with Matty Marshall. I got Quinn Nadeau here from Iconic Paintball, and this is the Iconic Awards. So we got a star-studded list. We got a bunch of people that are going to be on the show today. So very much excited for this. This is going to be spectacular here. This is going to be great. Quinn, how you doing, man? And thank you so much for doing all the hard work to put this all together, because I mean, we have an insane amount of awards to be announcing the nominees for. And yeah, this is going to be a good one, man. So again, thank you for your hard work. And how you doing right now?
Good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on again. The award season's always exciting. It's always a fun time, you know, researching and going through all the best players in the game and kind of whittling down the nominees to the truly best 5 in each category, and then kind of getting to chat with everybody and getting their insights from the season.
Well, I think the best way to start is to maybe just go over the categories for the awards that we're going to be discussing the nominees for here before we have our first guest on. We're hoping our first guest is going to be, and bear with us if we have any technical difficulties, because we are going to be trying to bring about 10 different separate people here on the show to give them their glory to announce these nominees. Hopefully we're getting Alex Fraige on first. But yeah, Quinn, maybe we could just go through the different segments here and talk about just a little bit about that before we kind of get into the weeds.
Yeah, so obviously the goal with the awards is to try to kind of honor every possible type of player there is on the field. So typically kind of like the big award each year is the Icon of the Year award, which is kind of like a hybrid MVP award of sorts. It kind of looks to find those transcendent guys both on and off the field who truly make those huge impacts for their team. You know, and then of course, we kind of go through the typical positional awards like the Snake Player of the Year, the Dorito Player of the Year, Offensive Player, Defensive Player, you know, all the major stuff on the field. And kind of to add to that too, this year, we made a little bit of a change. And the previous year, we did the Insert Player, but we're kind of modifying that a bit to a position we're now calling the Flex Player. Because we felt that kind of fit the mold of those kind of sort of glue guys that can just play all over the field and get things done for their teams in a multitude of ways. But, you know, generally we're trying to cover everything possible in the field. And I think a thing as well that I'm really excited about is we really focused on expanding the off-field categories this year. One of the things I definitely regretted after last year's awards was not having a larger amount of categories for like photographers, videographers, you know, just general kind of product innovators and things like that. So I'm super excited this year that we had time to expand out and, you know, really kind of nail every corner of the industry.
Yeah, you really are leaving no stone unturned here to give credit where credit is due. I mean, just to be nominated in a situation like this in one of these categories is pretty awesome. I mean, for the players, you know, in the pro division, there are about 200, give or take, players. So to be in a top 5 list, essentially just to be nominated in this situation is a pretty big deal. Yeah, so, and this is the nominee show. We're not actually giving the awards out. That will be a completely different show. And then Quinn, you know, since I'm kind of picking your brain right now before we start to bring these guests on, again, we're starting with Alex Fraige. He'll be on in a little bit here. So kind of give everyone just a little bit of a primer on how this goes down. Who's voting? How we're going to figure out who gets these, gets these nods as far as the best defensive player, best offensive player, the Icon of the Year, photographer of the year, etc. How are we going to figure this out?
Yeah, for sure. So kind of the way the voting process works, I think that's the best area to start. Throughout the year, I mean, literally from the first point in Florida to the last point at World Cup in Florida, I'm watching and kind of compiling lists all throughout the year. I'm bouncing ideas off of, other pros, coaches, guys like Maddie, media guys, just to generally kind of focus and dial down my list to maybe like 15, 20 guys in each category. And then kind of from there, as soon as World Cup's over, we really hit hard on kind of talking and putting feelers out with kind of what's our advisory team of sorts, and get input from every corner of the field on and off, to get an idea to narrow kind of down to our 5 people. And then from there, of course, we have our voting board for the on-field awards. That's myself, Maddie Marshall. We brought on Zyzek this year. And then, of course, we have Rich Telford again as well. And kind of how it works, so it's weighted a little differently than a simple, hey, pick a guy in each category, Maddie. Kind of what we do with the judges is every judge ranks each position group 1 through 5. So if you get a number 1 vote, that means you get 5 points. And then all the way down to if you get a 5th place vote, you get 1 point. And then whoever has the largest aggregate score total amongst the 4 judges is then awarded that award. And then something I'm kind of doing that we kind of tested the waters with last year was kind of introducing fan voting in some capacity. I've obviously been somewhat protective of the voting process because I truly want this to be the best player wins the award, and it's not just a popularity contest. So kind of a way I thought would be great to involve fans and, industry people alike in this would be to open up fan voting for the off-field awards this year. Because I really think when you're talking about, something like the videographer of the year, the photographer of the year, the people watching, consuming know best at the end of the day to me. So I think that's kind of a great way to bring that dynamic in and, really make it a full circle voting process.
Yeah, I do agree that is, in my mind, palatable. I just, when I look at any sort of award, and I mean, a popularity contest for an award like Offensive Player of the Year, Iconic, I would not want it to devolve. I mean, popularity contests are one thing, but it's that's why when you're getting awarded by people that spend a lot of time watching this game, have watched it for a long period of time, or their peers, that's a different type of award than just who's like the coolest person out there right now that has the biggest following. So I do love that we are maintaining the sanctity of that, these awards as much as possible. But I also agree with something like, content creator or photographer of the year, to open that up. I'm definitely all about democracy in general, but when it comes to certain things like this, I think it's a little bit more of an admirable mountain to climb, or a thing to obtain if it's awarded by your peers, or it's like the baseball writers decide who gets in the Hall of Fame, because that's their profession. They spend their entire lives following the sport. It's not a popularity contest, but who goes in the All-Star game has been a popularity contest. So again, it's like, what type of award are we talking about here? What type of nod? So I think that's kind of a cool way to mix it up. And yeah, we got Alex Fraige here ready to go. So I think this would be a good time to bring him in. And Quinn, so let's discuss Alex Fraige as we're about to bring him in here. What's he nominated for, and what's the category?
So yeah, Alex kind of appears in some capacity or way a few times in this year's nominations. For one, he got the nod in the Creator of the Year category alongside his partner Oliver Lang. And a lot of that logic behind that went in just this incredible stuff they've been able to do with Hormesis. Obviously, it can always be easy as a company in paintball to kind of fall into a rut and kind of just keep putting out the same things. But Alex and Oliver particularly, man, it's absolutely astonishing. Just it feels like every week they come up with some new cool product and just keep kind of building on this awesome movement they've done. And then, of course, the booth they did at World Cup was, arguably one of the best creations, we've seen in recent memory in paintball. So, kind of looking at Alex for a award like that was a no-brainer. And then, of course, he's also in that conversation as well in the Dynasty for Team of the Year. Which is a little bit of a no-brainer as well there.
Hey, thanks.
Well,
I didn't even know I was
welcome.
going to get another nomination. Hey, thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, welcome to the show. But yeah, dude, you deserve all the credit in the world. We love you. Definitely a little biased over here because of how much I love Alex Fraige. But yeah, it is really cool. Maybe Alex, you could maybe talk a little bit about your creative process, because you've been an artist as long as I've known you, and obviously have helped lead the ship for Dynasty. So there are multiple levels to this. There's you know, there's Dynasty. There's, I mean, you still playing. I mean, you won an MVP award not that long ago, you know, in Chicago. So that was kind of cool to see this revival, this renaissance of not only your career, but the team's career. And you guys are the best team in the world right now. But that's one side of the conversation, because then the other side of the conversation is all the things that you're doing behind the scenes with Field One, with Hormesis, with Coin Duel, and really kind of trying to, you know, be this one of these creative driving forces, one of these prime movers behind the scenes, making things happen. So talk to me about, like, where's the genesis of these thoughts come from? I mean, what's the motive behind the madness here?
First off, you look fabulous in your shirt. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the Go Sports crew. You guys did a great job. I did watch the first episode of Defining Moments. It was definitely entertaining, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, especially because we won the tournament. Either way, I do have my Iconic award from last year, Move of the Tournament. I don't think anyone would believe that I went from the Sportsmanship Award at the 1996 Mare Island Cup, which means you got last place and didn't win any games. We did win free entry fee to the next tournament, and that started a glorious run, which ended up in my Move of the Year award, which incidentally is the hardest one to get. So yeah, I will say, Quinn, it's a great thing you're doing. It definitely adds, you know, an element of interest and obviously of care, right? Like, something that people care about. And I have this on my desk. I look at it every day, and I'm very proud of it. So thanks, Quinn, for creating that platform.
For sure.
And yeah, we're having a good time here. Yeah, like Maddie said, I'm glad you had me on to give me my glory.
Well, let's talk about where the
sure.
glory originates from, dude. Like, where does it come from? Like, you totally ignored my question. Usual. I'm used to this by now. But where does the creative genesis come from? Where do all of Alex Fraige's genius ideas come from?
It's the team, right? It's the team. It's the inspiration that my team and my friends and the people around me give me. So I credit most of what has happened positively for the team and for Hormesis. Yes, to myself, but also to my peers and collaborators. So, you know, got a great team behind me. Got Oliver, Miko, obviously on the paintball team. Guys like Ryan and Yosh, who've been with me forever. Oliver made an appearance. Archie, who's the maestro. That's what I call him. So when you have him on here, he'll know what that means. But yeah, I mean, I love doing it. So I want to bring something that is interesting and something that's fun and something that I would want to be a part of if I was an outsider. So yeah, I just want to bring the coolness factor back into paintball. So that was sort of our inspiration for the booth at Orlando. Make somewhere you want to be and you want to hang out. Make it feel fun and cool and kind of really sort of embrace that idea of community. And I feel like we accomplished that, and everyone had a good time, and we sold some cool stuff. And yeah, party on.
It was so hilarious so my experience with the Hormesis booth, because Miko was, he's like, hey, come by the Hormesis booth when you get a chance. And it's right before the hurricane's coming in, right? So like the first bands of the hurricane are starting to come in to the field. And I'm walking through, and it's raining. It's like pouring rain. The rain's coming sideways. The animals have not started walking in twos quite yet, but the writing is on the wall, right? So, and I look up and I see this, and I'm like thinking, where's the goddamn Hormesis booth? And I'm walking in the rain, and I'm looking up, and I see this line, and I'm like, who would be in the right mind would be waiting in a line right now? Like, what is? And then it just, as the thought entered my head, it was like, I'm thinking, okay, where's the Hormesis booth? Why the hell are these people waiting in the? Oh, that's the Hormesis booth. And I couldn't even see the signage yet. I just saw the 100-person line, and then I went up to it. I kind of counted it real quick, and then went into the booth, and it just smells like Nog Champa. It smells like a hippie, like an opium den. It just was awesome. There's awesome music bumping. I'm getting the nostalgia feeling from like Heaven from 2000 with the Angel booth kind of flowing in. It's all perfect. And then everyone's kind of setting things up, and everyone in the line was like, Maddie, get us in. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on yet. Hold on. And we go in, and I'm like, when are you going to let these people just pouring outside right now? There was a line nonstop for like 6 or 7 hours in the pouring pre-hurricane rain. It was crazy. But yeah, it was a little respite. The booth was dope and smelled glorious in there. Yeah, it definitely smelled like I don't know, like the Beatles recording studio probably smelled in 72. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I did actually. I had a lot of questions about that, and the smell. Actually, we knew we were going to do a booth there, so I told Oliver to start saving his sweat about 6 months before that. So we were able to encapsulate his essence and then aerosolize it and inject it into the air. So, yeah, that was actually the essence of Oliver Lang that you were smelling.
That's tight. Well, yeah, it was kind of like it was like a hint of forest with like a slight pull of vanilla, and then kind of like a big burst of like like the God of War himself. Like if Mars was there, but like kind of like breathing some sort of like piney, fiery, ether into the crowd. That's kind of what it was. No, but it was super cool.
And,
but so what do you guys? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just stoked to be back on here, and yeah, stoked to see who else was nominated and get the show rolling. Yeah, are you gonna tell us now who was nominated, or we have to watch the whole thing?
Yeah, Quinn, do you want to
kind of? Well, yeah, I know Darren has the graphics on. I mean, I guess we'll kind of knock out each category as we go. So, I mean, we could definitely reveal like the creator of the year, since that's obviously one of the ones you're up for. We can definitely do that. This was kind of an interesting category to me because, last year this was just everybody, whether it was like videographers, podcasters, whatever. But this year we got to focus a little more on just like kind of guys who are making interesting stuff, whether that be a podcast or like, kind of interesting industry things like you and Oliver do. But yeah, so the first one we had in this category was Clint Riddle, who's like an incredible artist. He does, hand-drawn and digital drawings and paintings of all kinds of paintball stuff. He kind of was like someone that seemed like he came out of nowhere to an extent. Like you didn't hear a lot about him, and then suddenly he's doing all this super cool stuff. And then you can see we have a couple podcasters as well. Play the Game is going for their first back-to-back attempt here. Right. Of course, when you talk podcasts and you talk, historical preservation of the game, I mean, it's bar none with a guy like Tyler and Marcelo there. And then we have one of the fan favorites, which is the Spick and Span show. I'm sure that will be a pretty
please no.
Dude, there's gonna be a heated voting battle between the podcasts for sure, being that all this is fan voted.
We got Quinn. This is the one we need to turn into a popularity contest. Turn this one into a popularity contest.
Tuesdays at 4 is complete wreck. I mean, if you do decide to watch it, do not let your children watch it. It is just it's honestly garbage on the screen. So I would avoid watching.
But to me, it just encompasses what makes paintball great. It's like the chaos and the insanity of the game just packaged into a show once a week.
Play the Game podcast is what makes paintball great. The Spick and Span show is what makes paintball horrible. And I will say,
well, you need both.
Back to your thing, Maddie, about the fans voting or public voting. I do think that that's a good idea because I think I have a legitimate chance to win a popularity contest right now.
Well, start getting out the banners and pushing.
Yeah. Well, I think I just also want to turn that one into a popularity contest because I don't want to have to hear from either Ryan or Spica or Marcelo or Tyler. I'm about to play golf with Tyler and Dalton and LB in Arizona next weekend. And I just don't want to have to hear about, which way vote. If we turn that into a popularity contest, make my life a little bit easier. And I think that's just, I've love for all those shows, obviously. Alex, you're kind of like the third host of the Spick and Span. So the fact that you are kind of trashing it is ironic and hilarious. But we got to let you go, Alex. I wish we could keep you on here for hours.
1 second. I just want to say I do have here with me the Iconic Awards San Diego Dynasty Starter Kit. It is first the trophy, of course. You need that. Psyllium husks, right?
So
Maddie, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and of course Advil, which I will take a couple of those right now, and wash it down with what.
Well, you hear that, folks? That's the key if you want to win awards this year.
Yep, and of course, Stormtrooper Pez. And with that, I'm out.
Alex, I love you.
See ya, dude.
You're the best. We're gonna have Archie Montemayor coming on next. But yeah, also we got to mention Moffitt as well too here, Quinn, before we head into our next burst of categories and who we're going to discuss, because I feel like he bears a mention for sure. I mean, obviously he's nominated. So
yeah, man, I love Ryan Moffitt. What he's done this year, he's done. I feel like he's kind of done like a podcast sort of show in addition to like all the incredible media that he produces. And it's definitely it's a cool show to listen to because it's just a little different feeling. A lot of the other podcasts have been very pro centered, and his is a little bit more of like a hangout lounge for just players in general kind of feel. So I've kind of really liked that. So that's kind of why he was the 5th nominee in that category.
Yeah, he's cool, man. I really like that kid. He's not a kid, he's a grown man, but kind of getting a little long in the tooth and gray in the beard. So
everyone's a kid for someone like you now.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ. Just had another birthday. Just time comes for us all, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy it while you can. But no, he's worked with us on some Go Sports stuff too. He's a good spirit to be around. Big fan. Yeah, so if we can, let's bring in Archie Montemayor as legend in the game. And so Quinn, as we bring Archie in, Archie, what's up? So Quinn, what is Archie nominated for? Because Archie's the type of dude that with what he's doing right now, there's a lot of things that we could be nominating Archie for. I mean, he could be icon, he could be aggressive player of the year with project behind the scenes. He's a man kind of got a lot going on, a lot of kettles on the fire. I appreciate that, Arch. So mad respect to you.
Thanks,
let's break it down. Why is Archie Montemayor blessing us with his presence currently?
Archie is all over the board this year, man. I mean, he came into Dynasty and just had this absolute fired up season. I mean, this year was definitely an up and down year for a lot of kind of more offensive minded guys. And Archie was just in a class of his own this year. He's actually on the board for 3 different awards this year, which that's the first time we've ever had someone do 3, which was cool. So he's on the board for a nominee for the Icon of the Year, just because obviously Archie is an incredibly iconic guy, man. I mean, this is someone who every year of his career is an MVP caliber player. And then what he's doing off the field with Ryan Brand with his project company is just, awesome. I mean, he was kind of at the forefront of this player-driven product movement that's really emerged over the last few years. And then kind of even the stuff he's been able to do with iconic products like the JT Proflex. I mean, there were years where no one was using that product on the pro field, and he was kind of like the dying knight for that brand. And he really helped drag JT back into the forefront, which kind of goes along with that iconic status he has. And then in addition to that, he's also a nomination for the Offensive Player of the Year and the Snake Player of the Year.
Yeah, so Arch, before we kind of let you take it away here and talk about just this badass year that you had, because it was pretty badass, bro. But it was a risk. And sometimes with risk does come reward, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes risk can send you into some sort of spiral that is objectively not good for the things that are to move you forward. And you did take a big risk this year. You left X Factor, a team that you helped put on the map, to go to Dynasty. And in defining moments when we had some interviews, I mean, you were brutally honest about stuff. But one of the things that you did say, which I'm sure will probably end up making the final cut, but you had said, all right, well, yeah, I mean, I'm coming to a team that's winning already. So if we don't win, well, then it's really pretty easy to look at what changed. It's me, I'm the thing that changed. So this is, I mean, cool. You could say, oh yeah, easy for me to go to this team that's winning. But what happens if Dynasty doesn't win in 2022? They pick me up and all of a sudden we suck. I mean, dude, that's a really easy arrow to send to somebody. But that was not the case at all. It actually was the exact opposite. And yeah, dude, there's a reason why you're on a lot of these lists. So without any further ado, let's let you talk about how awesome you are for just a little second here.
Well, thank you both for the nice words. Obviously this season was quite a momentous one for me, and definitely is man, it's hard to imagine a better season, that I foresee happening in the future, and definitely not in the past. I mean, it was just so monumental for me in so many ways. Obviously, there was a lot of pressure and a lot of, I guess, I think I'm putting the target on my back by going to the best team in the world. And the fact that we had such an amazing year, and I was able to kind of like set a precedence as far as my role in the team in a position that was really very difficult this year. I mean, the snake side of the field and that's why for the most part, there's just a lot of guys that just didn't play like they normally played this season on the snake side, because all the layouts on the snake side were just really tricky and intricate and very difficult, and a lot of timing involved. And
Archie,
to be able to
just real
kind of
quick,
fill in and do that.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think this is an important point to just kind of stop you, just so we can kind of dive into that a bit, because I feel that one of the reasons that you did have such an amazing year as a snake attacker was because we had a year where, Jason Trozen and the NXL was throwing some very unconventional layouts out there, and it required you to be able to be in that flow state, not just you, but anyone playing elite level paintball on the snake side of the field. You had to have a very strange mix of your ability to play defense, switching into offense, or just play brutal smash mouth, bloody knuckles offense when needed, and have this high paintball IQ. So we did see a year where it was not let's just put a ladder snake in every single event and let the car crash happen. No, it was a much more kind of the art of war being displayed on that snake side. It was really fun to watch doing my job and as a fan. So talk to me a little bit about that, because it'll lean into that a bit, because you were kind of going down that road anyway, but I really feel that the layouts were just tailor-made for you to just slaughter it out there.
Right. I mean, yeah, each layout was definitely its own kind of monster. The first event was kind of a ladder snake, but pretty difficult to get into. And also this season, I think in general, for the most part, the snake runners were getting shot a lot, all season long. And that's just a testament to the skill of the league, right? And so then, weighing that risk in or finding creative ways to get wide, it was, a big precedence all season long. And then also just the intricacies of each snake, like I said, the first event, pretty standard snake. Getting into it was kind of tricky, and you didn't get a lot of free kills unless you got all the way down, right? So it kind of made it also hard to protect your guy. There weren't a lot of good spots to protect your guy from either. So that was one thing. The second one in Dallas was like kind of a weird one where you got in there and you pretty much were just straight in the 50 and you were mashing, but the snake was crossed on the other side of the field. So they have that on your left. It's a cross mirrored field. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but that was quite an interesting one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, And then obviously, Philly was kind of its own beast as well. Not a lot of teams were playing really aggressive in the snake. And so you kind of had to pick and choose your timing and battle on that. And then the last two events, or I guess Sacramento was also crazy offensive, and both sides of the field really. So that was kind of the outlier as far as the other layouts concerned for the year. And that was like just a bloodbath off the break. People were just going everywhere. And you couldn't really stop anything. And then the final two events, at least on the snake side, were just very technical, very difficult, and not a lot of reward for the risk you'd take getting wide. So you had to really time it right and find your windows and create windows sometimes just to kind of be relevant, and definitely when I think of like my body of work over the season, I feel like incredibly honored and really proud of the performances I put, because I can honestly say that there wasn't another snake guy that was near the level of consistency that I had all year on that side. And obviously that has nothing to do with the lack of talent. I mean, there's so many immensely talented snake guys in the league. And to say that, I was above that for the whole season, I mean, I just feel really, really proud of it.
You should be proud. Quinn, maybe we could talk about icons of the year. It's just because Archie, yeah, dude, we're buddies. Obviously, I've known you for a long time. I appreciate all the work you do. We are friends, so I'm a little biased here. But Jesus Christ, dude, you had a hell of a year, man. It was really interesting to see you take this big risk to go to Dynasty. And people could say, yeah, dude, what the hell are you talking about? He's going to take a risk to go to Dynasty. But it was a risk, because if you don't play at the most elite status of all of the other elite players, then people are going to think you fell off. And then what the hell is going on here? But you really kind of came into your own and showed us another gear that you had. And if we take a look at these icons, this is going to be a fun one to kind of break down. And again, this is a whirlwind show. We don't have a lot of time with all these different guests. We'll be breaking this stuff down a little bit more. You guys can check out Iconic Paintball for more information. We're going to be doing more shows heading into the year, but it's Ryan Greenspan, Justin Rabakoff, Archie Montemayor, Tyler Harmon, Jacob Edwards. Quinn, what are your thoughts? I mean, this is arguably the most important of all the awards. This is the big award. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I agree. Like, I think this is the big one that kind of everyone's looking for every year. The icon of the year this year was, I think, maybe one of the harder conversations. This was a year where like a lot of guys really stood out big, 2 or 3 events, and then maybe were a little quiet for 2 or 3 events. So the biggest part of the process was really, focusing in on like who truly has that full season resume, and like kind of how Archie mentioned, like if you look at a guy like, for instance, like offensively in the Snake, I mean, just in general for his team, there's arguably not anyone with a better resume than him. I mean, he was someone that played the Snake in a totally different way than everybody else was doing, and kind of built his own kind of strategy around his methodical timing. So obviously he's like a no-brainer for that. But, obviously there's also some other big heavy hitters here. I mean, you have his teammate, for instance, like Ryan Greenspan. I mean, that's a living legend in his own right. He's doing a ton on and off the field as well. So, I think really to me, this will probably be one of the closer votes among the judges. Cause I mean, this is something you could pull a name out of the hat out of these 5. And I don't think you're making a bad decision.
Yeah, this is a crazy one because, Ryan, with what he's doing off the field, teaching clinics and, as a field owner of Dynasty and Field One, the Spick and Span show, Justin playing for 2 separate teams. He was there for both of the wins for Impact. He was that second place and a leader on the field for the Saints. And then you got Archie, obviously. And then Tyler Harmon, also Play the Game podcast. What he's doing off the field, same sort of thing, teaching clinics and telling stories and being a prime mover when it comes to the narrative. And then, I mean, he was the second best. It was Ryan Greenspan and Tyler Harmon on the All-Star votes, and it was neck and neck. I mean, it was just two votes essentially separated the 2 of them. And then Jacob Edwards, Jesus Christ, man, he had the most dramatic moment in the one-on-one victory against Brandon Cornell to put Damage forward in triple overtime to win Damage's first event in 10 years. And then he continued to just absolutely massacre people the entire year. I mean, he had a hell of a year. This is a really cool. This is going to be a fun one. This is one where I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, this is kind of a tough one to call here for, as far as who's going to be in the top spot. I don't know. This is one I'm going to have to sleep on for multiple days to try to figure it out. And then Archie, before we let you go, because we got to get all these different people in today, but we got to talk about, one of the reasons that you're on this list, to be on this list, you either have to be so good on the field that, like Jacob Edwards isn't really doing a ton of stuff. He's not really founding companies and, moving and shaking in that sort of way, but he was just so potent and such a huge killer for Damage in their resurgent year that we have to put him on this list. But no, with what you're doing with Project, you guys just dropped some guns recently. I'm assuming they're already sold out, but maybe not. But just give everyone a quick, maybe like 30-second primer. The Project stuff exists for like, it's like a snowflake hitting the ground in a heat wave, bro. It's there for a second and then it's gone. So you want to get some Project stuff, you got to jump on it quick.
Yeah.
But give me the.
It is a little surreal at times.
Version. Yeah. Give me the 30-second version of Project before we let you go.
Yeah, we make high end, like artistic versions of top end gear, and the beauty of it is we also work with all different manufacturers kind of at our choosing, and basically we wanted to kind of go back to the roots where kind of everybody had their own kind of equipment and their own like flair and own, different anodizing and all kinds of, it's like you wouldn't go and grab your gun and it looks like exactly like the one your teammate's playing with. So that was kind of the idea. And it started a few years ago with just me custom milling guns of my own. And then obviously to get to the next iteration and now where we're at now, it's just been incredible. And the support's been amazing. I mean, obviously at this point, we just sell out of everything in a minute. And so it's really nice. And obviously we've got a bunch of cool stuff coming up this season. So I'm like really kind of looking forward to dropping all that stuff.
Dude, hey, I can't wait. That's fun just to watch it. I'm a big fan of, I'm a paintball nerd like all the rest of us. Speaking of paintball nerds, we got Zyzek Barro coming on next. But paintball nerd in me loves this sort of stuff. When I see a badass milling on whatever, it doesn't matter, or like a cool. And I do appreciate. Thank you so much for the red Project shirt that you gave me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the long sleeves.
Yeah, the long sleeves.
That's a hot item, man.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's going to my collection. It's not up for sale, but it's something I'm going to wear. But it's just I love the fact that we have players, dominating on the field like yourself, but then also making up some really cool stuff for everyone. It's like we just had Alec Fraige on. You are part of this. And this is what everyone's like, hashtag grow the game. This is the type of shit that needs to exist to grow the game. I'm so excited about it. Archie, God bless you and all the things that you're doing. Thank you so much for your time. And it's going to be a fun 2023 for sure.
For sure.
Thank you guys. Peace out. You have a good one.
Yeah, peace. So we're gonna head in. We're gonna bring in Zyzek Barro next. So Quinn, we're just we got this is just an incredible show. Just nothing but legends on this show. Zyzek Barro, OG Ironman from back in the day. He's won some huge tournaments and now started Paintball Nerd, which is and he's just been helping carry the narrative forward, man. I've always loved Zyzek since I knew this dude when he was just coming up, and now he's obviously he worked with Push and worked with Die, and then now starting his own thing here with Paintball Nerd, which is just diving into the narrative side of things. And Zyzek, I commend you for getting on this front that we're all fighting on, which is trying to get people to care about the game, because no one just wakes up all of a sudden in the morning and goes, man, I really wonder what's happening with pro paintball today. I mean, I just all of a sudden I'm like Houston Heat. I'm just so fascinated by Houston Heat. Just it came to me in a dream. That's not how it works. You have to tell someone a story. You have to give someone some information. So I do appreciate that that you have decided to get on this quest. And it's one of the reasons I love Quinn too, and the people that tell these stories. So yeah, welcome to the show. So Quinn, tell me about why you wanted to include Zyzek here and where Paintball Nerd fits in all of this.
So yeah, of course, I kind of mentioned before, I've been super protective on the type of judges I bring in, just because, again, I want the truly best players to represent the winners for each category. Just a guy like Zyzek, he has such a great mind around the game, and I love the type of analysis he brings. I think it's so interesting because every creator that comes along kind of brings that own unique viewpoint and kind of, how they see the game unfold in front of them. And obviously Zyzek, brings that to another level, because this was a guy who, in his own right was a top level pro during his time in that golden era of the sport. So he kind of bears the burden now of being a judge, which kind of the one thing against that is it makes it harder to get nominated because, we have some biases mixed in on that front. But I was super happy when he wanted to come on board to be a judge, because I think everything he's been doing at Paintball Nerd's great. If he wasn't a judge, I would have him on this nominee list for sure in the creator category, just because he's been phenomenal.
So Zyzek, how are you kind of looking at all this, man? You've been pumping out interviews. It's been really cool to see, and it's very important because on that side of things, it's incredibly important to get all that stuff out there. And so where did your motive for this come in? And then after you answer that, we got to kind of dive into a couple of these, your thoughts on a couple of these categories.
Sure, Maddie. Well, the motivation came from just being a nerd for paintball. I played for many years and I just love paintball, and I wanted to talk to some of my old friends. That's really how it started, is I wanted to talk to my old friends about the glory days of paintball, and I decided to hook up a camera and do that. So that's really how it all started. And, it probably wouldn't be fair to make me a nominee for 2022 because I really started doing interviews in October. So I came late to the game, and but maybe I'll have a shot here in 2023.
Yeah, you've gone hard though in this short amount of time you've done it.
For sure.
But it is a blessing though, Zyzek. Obviously, look, for people that don't know, maybe they're like, oh, who's this Zyzek Barro character? Zyzek's been around for a long time. I played with Zyzek back in the day on the Ironman in the very first beginning of X-Ball, and then he played with that team for a long period of time when San Diego was kind of part of them rebuilding and getting that team back to championship status, and then has worked in this industry. As I was saying before. So, Zyzek has been around for a long period of time. So, Zyzek can just get on his phone and hit up some of the homies and be like, hey, Billy Saransky, can you just, I'm going to call you in real quick. Let's get a little quick interview. No, so it is kind of cool though, but it is important. And I feel like this is this is an easy spot for you to shoehorn into because you've always been a talkative dude, always been an intelligent guy. And once you started doing this, I'm like, yeah, this is just totally perfect. So Zyzek, let's talk a little bit about some of these, because we got to kind of rip through. We do have a lot of guests coming up here and got to dive into some of these categories. So we got Offensive Player of the Year, Snake. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this list? Let's dive into Offensive Player of the Year first.
Right. So there's Chad Bougier. He's phenomenal player. He always plays on his toes. Especially watching him at World Cup go in the center is just like an incredible player to watch. So, he was a no-brainer. Archie, we just spoke with him. Obviously, he's like almost like this AI type of offensive player. Alex Goldman in the Snake. It's tough to say anyone would be better at him, playing that position. Dalton, not only is he amazing to watch, you can see him break down moves. Like, he's the kind of guy that just doesn't go from bunker to bunker. He'll do like a little backup away from his bunker and then like insert into the next spot. So watching Dalton is amazing, and all of his teammates think he's the bomb as well. Axel, amazing Snake player. So, I mean, some good choices there. It's hard to choose because you have different positions on the field, and to really pick a guy who'd be the best, I guess you'd have to say, well, I guess that's why you have Dorito and Snake player as well, right?
Yeah, totally. Quinn, what do you think here? Offensive Player of the Year. We got a couple Dynasty players, a couple players from Impact. I mean, Dynasty won 3 events, Impact won 2 events, Damage won 1. There's a reason why these guys are on this list. Yeah, we could go down a little bit and discuss other players, but these are the teams that won tournaments. So we have to talk about their offensive weapons. Quinn, what do you think? This was kind of a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think when you talk about someone like an offensive player, especially, like, they need to be producing at a level that is getting their team match wins, event wins. Like, there's tons of offensive talent from 1 to 20 in the pro league, but when it comes to a word like this, you need to be someone that's on the field and making a huge impact offensively. I mean, you talk about all these guys, really. I mean, maybe outside of Dalton and Archie, who are a little bit more specialists. I mean, a guy like Chad, Alex, and Axel, I mean, these are guys that were all over the field this year in multiple positions, and they, put out a high level of offense throughout the seasons for their teams and event wins. So, they kind of push themselves into that no-brainer category in a sense.
Yeah, and then, I mean, to me, there are specialists, but then there is the jack of all trades, offensive weapon type people. But if you look at Alex Goldman, yeah, Snake specialist, but he won an MVP award playing on the D side of the field. And then if you look at Archie, I mean, Archie has been incredibly versatile, but he had to step up and be the most key player on Dynasty on that Snake side to help carry them to wins. And you look at Axel, I mean, part of the reason that Axel's on this list is when Alex Goldman went to the Saints and wasn't there for 2 events. If you go watch the first 2 events for Edmonton Impact, I mean, Axel goddamn was going off over there, and he just had a year. And he's one of those guys that when you talk to who is impressive out there and who, offense, I'm thinking offense in your mind right now. What are you thinking for all the players? Axel is on the tip of everyone's tongue. And then Dalton is the pro's pro. I mean, Dalton is one of those guys that people still to this day will say that he's underrated. And I'm like, I don't know how anyone that's been watching paintball for 10 years could think that Dalton Vanderbilt is underrated. He just won the MVP at World Cup. But that being said, he's also hurt sometimes, and he's been gone and quasi-retired, and he's played for different teams. So, sometimes he filters in and out. He has not been omnipresent. But yeah, but let's, again, you and I, all the 3 of us could spend an hour talking about these 5 guys. We do have to move on. We do have a little bit of a machine gun show out here as we try to get all these guests. And it is, again, Quinn, you've done such a good job of setting up this entire thing with all of these different nominees. So we do have to move on. Let's talk about Snake. So Quinn, maybe list off the Snake players, potential nominees here for Snake Player of the Year. And this is, again, similar situation here, but we're going to see some of the same faces, but also see some different faces. What do you think?
Yeah, so of course we've already mentioned Archie, and then you have a guy like Mike Zupa, who honestly, I'm not going to say he came out of nowhere, but he kind of went to that platinum level Snake player this year for Impact. I mean, he absolutely carried them an entire event to all the way through. And then of course you have the classic heavy hitters like Chad George, Keith Brown, and Billy Bernacci in that mix. A guy like Billy maybe started off the year a little slow, but I think it's very hard to, talk about a scenario that X Factor finds that late season success they do without what Billy was, without Billy doing what he did in the Snake.
Zyzek, what are your thoughts on this list?
Well, I think they're excellent choices. I would probably pick Billy. I mean, watching him sacrifice his body point after point after point. I mean, Keith is amazing to watch, so I'd want to go with him as well. I think Archie wins it though. I mean, like I said, Archie's like a AI type player. It's like watching just execution, like supreme execution. So
yeah, this is a tough one. Just real quick, my thoughts. We gotta get moving here, but with Mike Zupa, unbelievable at the event in Sacramento. I mean, he won the MVP. He won move of the tournament. He was playing both offense and defense. I just got a chance to do an interview with Brandon Cornell about all the events last night, super late, as we're working on defining moments, and he was just singing Zupa's praises. Chad George, Houston Heat, incredibly consistent. No wins for Houston Heat this year, but dude, if you can't shut Chad George down on the snake side, gonna have a problem. Archie Montemayor, we just talked about how amazing he was, and then Billy Bernaccia. X Factor misses the first 2 Sundays, but without Billy, they're not gonna be able to play the type of paintball they played to make the run they did later on in the year. And then Keith Brown. Keith Brown has just been a stud on that snake side for damage to start, and then impact, and then back to damage. And they did win an event, but they're running 2 lines sometimes too, So it's going to be interesting how that all kind of works in. Anyways, Zyzek, thank you so much, guys. Check out Paintball Nerds. Zyzek, before we dip out here, give everyone a little bit info on that, where they can find your stuff and where they can find all your content.
Sure. Yeah, on Instagram, it's paintballnerd_IG. I'm working on getting rid of that _IG. On YouTube, it's Paintball Nerd. There's paintballnerd.com. Check it out.
Definitely check it out, dude. And definitely want to go on Zyzek's show next week. We're hoping we will see, as I'm kind of a slave to the definitive or defining moments grind right now. But Zyzek, thank you for all the work you do, man. I love you so much. Mad respect for your history in the game. We're going to bring in Marcelo Margott coming up next here. But yeah, Quinn, so we're moving along. Let's get a quick little reset. All right, we got the Iconic Awards. What's coming up next? What can people expect to see? Obviously, Marcelo Margott, legend in the game, Play the Game podcast coming on. But what are we talking about next?
So yeah, obviously when someone like Marcelo comes up, right away the first thing you're going to start thinking is Defensive Player of the Year. So of course we're going to jump right in and chat about that. I kind of get his. I want to get his views on, his peers within this category, because I think Marcelo, is incredibly well-spoken and incredibly knowledgeable about the game. So I'm kind of excited to see how he feels about the awards so far. I've been getting a few texts from him already, so I'm excited to get him in and jump on it.
And here he is, one of our legends, Marcelo Margott, multiple-time MVP award winner, world champ, San Diego Dynasty, but he's played for a laundry list of top teams over the years. But yeah, we got Marcelo Margott.
We did it.
And you look pretty dialed right now, brother. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Maddie. Sorry, guys. I thought the camera was a little more centered than that. Yeah, I'm doing well, healing up from a little bit of a lip injury this last weekend. We were having
what happened,
off-season practice. Dude, it was literally the last point of the day. Long story short, I was like trying to ghost out of the California, the bunker right outside of the back center. And I was like checking off the center 50. Player wasn't on me. I got up to make a move, and the center 50 just like came up over the top to shoot at me. And I just kind of like slid checked into the next bunker, and my barrel went straight into the ground. Tank hit my face, and my tooth went straight through my lip. So I have 2 stitches in my lip. It's a little difficult to talk, but it's actually amazing how fast the mouth heals, because this happened Sunday, and it's like pretty much healed right now, which is crazy. Just a little swollen. Cut on the inside, cut on the outside, but yeah, could be worse.
Yeah, John Kurzawa was a dentist, and I remember when Billy Bernaccia messed his mouth up at the Iron City Classic, and John Kurzawa was like, dude, the mouth is the fastest healing thing on your body other than your eyes. The eyes are actually the fastest healing thing, but it is amazing how quick the mouth will recover with things. Well, yeah, so yeah, when you I don't know, again, with your knee issues, bro, and I know you've been super solid over the years, but when you posted you were in the hospital, I was like, oh no, Jesus Christ, Marcelo, what happened, bro? And you're like, oh dude, I just tanked myself. It's fine. It's merely a flesh wound. I'll be okay. But yeah,
I got nervous when I heard about that, because I just get a text from Ryan that says, hey, meeting's delayed, Marcelo's in the hospital, and then just no response after that. So I'm like, oh my God, I hope he's all right.
Yeah, so, I was good. Again, just spent, way too long in the emergency room and got a few stitches, but we're good.
Well, Marcelo, I also love that you still have your Christmas tree up because, like, I'm a prolonged Christmas guy, whereas my wife is like, everything Christmas must be abolished the day after Christmas. Like, take the lights down, light the tree on fire. We're moving on. And I was like, but it's Christmas. Can we just hold on to it just for a little bit longer?
All through January, I think it's still Christmas. If we're gonna cut that thing down, if we're gonna kill and have like a real Christmas tree in the house, we're gonna keep it as long as it can survive. The branches are getting a little limp right now, though, and ornaments started falling off. So I think it's time to probably take it out over the next week or so.
So Marcelo, dude, you've been doing so much for so long on so many fronts here. You've been teaching clinics, you've been bringing up the next generation, you've been coaching teams, leading whatever team you happen to be playing with to victories. Obviously, if it's been a while, it's been San Diego Dynasty for a while. You're now an owner of San Diego Dynasty. You got the Play the Game podcast. So Quinn, I'm gonna throw it to you. Let's talk about why we got Marcelo on again here. I mean, we have to explain it, but we don't really, because if anyone's been watching, why we have Marcelo Margott on, as he's going to be in the running for a lot of these awards. But Quinn, what are we talking about right now with Marcelo?
Yeah, so next, we're going to kind of jump in here to the Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, that position is just all about, those stalwarts of the game, the guys that you can put in bad situations and bad spots, and they're always going to hold the line for their team. Especially so when it comes to a guy like Marcelo. I mean, he is consistently asked to play the worst spot on the field every single event. And rather than, complain and bitch and try to get out of it, he jumps right in and he goes head to head in some of the tightest spots on the field and just absolutely holds down with a high survivability. So he was, a no-brainer to kind of lead off this list. And I believe he's looking for, a back-to-back this year on that.
Marcelo, I know you're probably a little bit angry about this nomination here again, but, talk to me about what Defensive Player of the Year means to you. Because you're so good at paintball that you have to play shit spots sometimes, man, and you excel at it. And because this is something that became very apparent, but people have asked me this a lot. I've talked about this on different shows. I've talked about this off camera. Obviously working on Defining Moments right now. Episode 1's out. Check that out. Episode 2's coming up. But when people are talking about Dynasty, and I'm like, look, here's Dynasty. If Dalton's healthy, he's definitely starting, but Dalton's not always healthy. But the three starters, if you look at who plays the lion's share of the points for San Diego Dynasty in this new incarnation with Archie coming on the team, it's Archie, Ryan, and Marcelo. And Marcelo's going to be playing a spot where it's probably not the dopest spot on the field. It's going to be a gunfighting spot, hold a lane spot, a survive spot, and they just trust you to go play that spot. So talk to me about how difficult it is to be Marcelo Margott on the best team in the world right now. And that's why you're getting nominated for this, and why you won it before, is that it's you're not like taking a chainsaw and running up, but you've done that before too, so I just think this is an incredibly admirable position that you have taken on almost by default. And it's a really cool thing, I think. But I want to get your thoughts on it, because I know you get pissed off sometimes about Defensive Player of the Year.
I don't get pissed off about Defensive Player of the Year per se. First of all, when we look at the other names on this list, all of these players played at an incredibly high level this year. So it's an honor to be in this category with those players. I think we could do better with the name. To me, the role that I play, it's more of a game manager, really. It's not, you don't intend to start out the game defensively, right? But it's like sometimes, and I realize on our team especially when everybody's healthy, when we have our attackers, when everyone's healthy, our team loves to just take risks. Actually, it's like part of the dynamic of Dynasty. And I'm sitting back there like, somebody's got to be alive at the end through all this chaos. We got to make sure we have somebody alive to guard the buzzer or whatever you want to call it. I feel like for anyone that's listening, all the kids that are coming up in the game, it's important to be able to play every position. And I don't think you can really play this position if you don't understand all the other positions, because you're not going to be effective at communicating. You're not going to be that good at, managing the game and understanding when you have to push aside, when you have to attack in a different area, when you have to kill the clock, when you have to hunker down. You have to be very well-rounded to play this role. And so that's why you see all the names on this list have been playing the game for a very long time. Probably the case with all the names on all the lists. You don't get to the top 5 of anything in the sport without a ton of experience and talent. But the point is, I feel like the role is something that kids should kind of aspire towards, because, you know, it's a players these days, they like to choose one spot. I want to play the snake. I want to play the Doritos. I want to play the middle. That's not the way the game is. The game is positionless, you know, and at any time, depending on the team that you're playing with, depending on if you're guesting with another team, depending on your overall understanding of paintball, you need to be able to play every single spot. So for me, I feel like it's just kind of been what we've needed. Yosh has also been absolutely incredible. He played phenomenal at World Cup. Some of the best paintball I've seen Yosh play in a really long time. It was really inspiring. He taught me a lot about that field. Tyler, you know, obviously has been just absolutely elite. It's like watching him play with Heat over the last, you know, season and a half. It's, you know, it doesn't matter what the situation, Tyler finds a way to win so many, you know, points where his team's at a disadvantage. Henry, I think, played phenomenal this year, you know, especially World Cup. And he kind of played like a similar role to Archie, actually, a lot, which was strange, you know, in Philly and at World Cup. He played that the furthest out on the snake side, but I wouldn't say he was the one on the snake side, but he did enough to control that side and not allow another team to bite them on that side, which is a really tough balance. And then Jason Edwards, I mean, man, he's been doing it forever. So yeah, you've got a lot of elite players here, and yeah, it's an honor. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it is interesting with I do agree with you. It is a little deceptive on the name but that's kind of the role that you're right. I mean, what game manager, quarterback, I mean, you could call every single one of these guys a quarterback. Your role is diverse. I mean, you have played the one before. You've even recently, past couple of years, there's been a couple times where you're running the snake off the break, or you're running off the D side and you play the one on that side because of injuries. And you look at Tyler. Yeah, Tyler typically plays a 2, plays behind Chad George typically, and he excels in that role. But he is more often than not the last guy left alive, pulls off low body situations, and again, it goes into that quote unquote defensive category. Jason Edwards pulling off a 1-on-4 to help take his team into overtime, which won him the MVP and allowed them to win the second event. And then Yosh gets a lot of spins on a team that's deep right now. And Yosh shoots a lot of bodies on the break, and he is a gunfighter that you just do not want to run into his gun, because he's proven that over the years. But also, like you said, Marcelo, every single one of these guys came up the hard way. I mean, I played behind Yosh Rao as he played the one long ago. I've seen Jason Edwards and Tyler and yourself, and you have to have like this specific nod. It means that your level of paintball IQ is completely ridiculous. But before we let you go, Marcelo, we got to jump in because, you know, obviously we could, like with everyone here on these shows, we could, as we have before, we could spend 6 hours talking about all this stuff. Let's jump into what we're calling the flex players. Quinn, kind of break this down a little bit before we let Marcelo go. And everyone, again, check out the Play the Game podcast. Just had Tom Colon talking about some changes for this upcoming year, and I'm assuming you have, you know, some more badass people coming up to get interviewed. But yeah, so Quinn, break this down a little bit here, flex players, before we let Marcelo go, but get his thoughts on this category.
Yeah, so flex player was kind of a pivot we made as kind of a newer thing we're doing this year. This kind of just encompasses those guys that just generally do a little bit of everything on the field, that they generally don't just play one spot. You know, it's hard to kind of categorize, like, you know, someone like, for instance, Stephen O'Mara to a single position, just because, you know, he might play half an event in the snake and then all of a sudden he's playing like a back can. The rest, he's all over the place. So the flex player are truly those guys that just kind of have the weapons and capability to just play at all depths of the field, kind of whatever their team needs them, and they can just insert anywhere on the fly.
Mm-hmm. Marcelo, when you're looking at this list, what are you thinking here? We got Ryan Greenspan, Brian Smith, Stephen O'Mara, Rainey, Connor Kelly. We are going to have Connor Kelly on here a little bit. You know, what are you thinking about this list?
Connor Kelly, we just had him on the show, and I really like that kid. That kid has a good head on his shoulders. He's only 20 years old, which is crazy. I thought he was a little bit older than that. I think he has an incredibly bright future, and he has the same hair there as Rainey Stanzak. Looks amazing. He did cut it, though, a little bit shorter. Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic list, you know, but at the end of the day, it's not my job to you know, rate these guys. It's my job to beat these guys, except for Ryan. You know, he's on the same team, but yeah, this is a fantastic list. And, you know, if we're talking about flex player of the year, you guys, you have your hands full there. I I think my favorite player to watch this year out of that list was probably Brian Smith.
Yeah, Brian Smith was very versatile. Again, it's flex, right? So insert, we used to call this the insert role. And, but, you know, a flex player is somebody that can kind of morph into different roles. And when you look at a Ryan, a Brian Smith, a Stephen Omar, Rainey Stanza, Connor Kelly, I'm really happy to see also Connor on this list. I think him moving to Houston Heat is going to be really interesting. But yeah, and again, we are going to go a little bit more into this when we get Connor Kelly on the show in a bit. But this is one of the more fascinating roles on the field. And, but, you know, also, Marcelo, I mean, you're kind of a flex guy too, you know, so it's, you know, this is one of those situations where, you know, we're kind of playing jazz a little bit here, trying to figure things out as we move forward. And like, what are these paintball positions? You know what I'm saying? Like
absolutely.
This is not football. This isn't baseball. This is not hockey. There are not set positions. There are principles, things that have worked in the past as far as positional things are considered. But yeah, I mean, it's still a little bit, it's not the Wild Wild West. We do know the ones, the twos, and the threes, but when you look at a list like this and what you've done, so maybe last thoughts here on this list before we sign off, Marcelo.
Like I said, I think my favorite player to watch this year out of this list was Brian Smith. And I mean, I think the best player out of this list is Ryan, obviously, but I don't know that he was much of a flex. I feel like he played the middle for us. He played kind of the same position most of the season. You know, I love the category of flex. I think this is fantastic because I think paintball is a lot of flex position. So this is really good. I think maybe there were some missed opportunities with some other players. I would maybe put Malloy on this kind of list. He's typically a flex player. You could argue that Alex Goldman was a flex player this year because he won an MVP on the Dorito side, played the Snake side. At World Cup, he played the middle. You know, it's I'm sure you guys have your hands full when having these discussions. I know I can imagine how those talks go. But yeah, for me, as far as like my favorite player to watch this year, Brian Smith just pulled off some crazy things. I watched him at World Cup. Like one of the most elite moves in a major point against Impact, I believe on Sunday. Yep, on Sunday. As Impact was trying to score a point to tie it up, Matt Jackson got in the Snake. They had an advantage or come down the field, and Brian's like movement and awareness is just absolutely nuts. He like made this backwards move out of the Dorito 3 or Dorito 4 into that little W on the Dorito side, and like just knew exactly what he had to do. He just posted up on his Snake 1 and like lured Matt Jackson into that and got the kill there. You watch him do that kind of stuff all over the field, on the Snake side, on the Dorito side, in the middle. He was really, really, really fun to watch this year. Very underrated, somebody that doesn't get a ton of praise. I think Brian Smith is super elite. I don't know if he's coming back this year. I heard maybe he might not be playing with damage. I think that's a huge loss for them if that's the case. But you know, that's yeah, I don't know if I just dropped some news or not. I don't know, but they did pick up Rainey. Rainey's one of the best. Rainey's one of the best that ever play the game too. So
Joey, yeah, allegedly, Joey said he's still playing though.
No, we don't use allegedly on Play the Game podcast. We keep it factual.
Well, Joey Blue is here, so we will have Joey to answer this question here coming up pretty soon.
False flag.
But Joey says in the hole on false flag. But so on deck we got Sam Bennett. So Marcelo, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Check out the Play the Game podcast, dude. You're a legend. Let's go play some golf pretty soon. We're overdue for either a lunch or some golf. Let's do it.
Let's go. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Quinn, thank you for everything that you're doing with Iconic Awards. And Maddie, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Bad respect to you, dude, as always. All right. So Quinn, we're going to be bringing Sam Bennett in. Can you give a little intro here to Sam?
Yeah, dude, we're bringing in Sam. This is going to be one we got to smash a lot of stuff into. But you know, Sam in his own right is an incredibly creative guy. He got, kind of cut his teeth in the photography world, and now he's doing a ton of stuff with, video for some of the biggest companies in the game as well. We're going to bring him in so we can talk about the photographer and the videographer of the year.
Oh gosh.
What's up, Sam? How you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How do I look? Because on my screen, I don't know if I look too good.
You look fine. You're wearing a whiskey and paintball shirt, which I truly appreciate. So yeah, you look pretty solid. So yeah, I mean, Sam, let's jump into this a little. We're doing great, man. Yeah, we're just we got a huge laundry list of all these different categories. I mean, it was a crazy year last year. We're expecting 2023 to also be crazy. But, you know, this is a very important thing. Videographer, photographer, you know, people capturing the story. This insane thing is happening. These lives are being lived. These battles are being fought. And then there are people around to capture that. And through over time, I mean, I've worked with and seen some amazing photographers, and that fire has to continue to be lit so it can illuminate what's happening with all these people fighting these battles. And that's what the photographers and the videographers do. They kind of provide, you know, that campfire, that light to show what's happening with all these people in their battles. So talk to me about your struggle, man. You know, like, talk to me about what it takes to do what you guys do.
Okay, so that's a hard question to answer and just straightforward. It's not very straightforward. Obviously, we all have our own different boundaries we have. Some of us, the field has 20 photographers and they're all incredible, and some of us were the only one there. I'm very lucky right now. I started at Hot Shots Paintball in Florida, and there was no photographer there. And that's kind of how I got started and got my foot in the door, was being one of the only ones in South Florida at the time. It's 2016. Now I'm at CFP, and there's a lot of great photographers there. So it's a bit more competitive, but people starting in the Northeast, they got 20 photographers that are all incredible to go against. So it's a little bit harder for people nowadays in certain areas to get into it, because everyone's getting into it, because it's the next logical step when you stop playing is to start capturing the sport that you love. So that's what I think.
So Quinn, give me your thoughts on photographer of the year. We got Rob Moore, we got Sam Bennett, we got Mike Moore, Ryan Fava. Talk to me about this specific category, because, you know, I mean, again, these are the people out here stealing souls. These are the people out here capturing these moments. And that's incredibly important, because if it wasn't for that, then we don't get to see what the hell happened. You know, the videography and the photography, it's like if that whole quintessential, if the tree falls in the woods doesn't make a sound type argument. No, it doesn't. You know, I mean, a sound is something that is recorded by a human ear. So the human eye and the human brain needs to consume these images. And thank God we have these people doing that work.
Yeah, man. Like, the photographer of the year, when we added this in, this became like a brutal category to find nominees for, just for the fact that there's so many good photographers right now. Like, this, it feels like the level of like that golden era magazine type time, where just like, I mean, anywhere you look at an NXL event, you have top level guys from pro down to the divisional fields. This was tough. I mean, I think I probably sorted through like 10,000 photographs throughout the process of this to really dial in, like, you know, finding just like those unique styles and just photography excellence throughout, you know, the year. So it was definitely tough. I think this is maybe the most important category to me, at least, because, you know, the stories come and go, the great players come and go, but the photographers are the guys who really immortalize and just capture that history. So, in, you know, 20 years down the road, whatever the hell the social media is, we're going to see an old photo from, you know, 2022 from Sam. And, you know, it's going to have all that, you know, nostalgia dripping all over it. There's little things that, you know, can help us remember those times.
Absolutely. Sam, what's the motive here? I mean, why do you want to take paintball photos? Like, why does this captivate you? Why do you want to spend time out there to kind of put this into the history books?
Yeah, so I played since I was 10 years old. I kind of got out of it probably when I was 20-ish, 22. So I played for a very long time, and I stopped feeling the love that I had for playing, and I started doing photos on the side. And I wanted to start capturing as the sport that I loved, and I never lost the fire for the sport just for playing. So I wanted to start capturing that, and it's kind of become this thing for me where I shoot models, I shoot companies, stuff like that, but nothing quite feels the same as shooting an object you never know what's going to happen next. You never know when it's going to be a bunker or someone's going to core sample. You just never know. And to me, that's why I continue loving and want to continue shooting the sport. It's because I just don't know what's going to happen next. I can't guess.
Yeah, it's the unpredictability of the chaos that kind of keeps us all around, because even though I definitely know it's my job to know a lot of these stories, it's still, you just never really know what the hell is going to happen. So it does make it it makes it fun. It really does. It makes it novel. It makes it interesting. It is captivating. So also we got to talk about, so let's maybe talk about the difference between a photographer and videographer. I mean, both are capturing images. Obviously, one is capturing stills, one is capturing, video. Those are two different beasts, but some people might not know the distinction between the differences here. So maybe Quinn, I'll start with you, and then Sam will go to you. To Quinn, what is the difference in your mind as the person putting together videographer, photographer? Because sometimes people do a little bit of both. There is, it's media capture, so there is dabbling. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems to me the line between a photographer and a videographer, at least over the last year or two, has definitely become a lot more skewed. I mean, historically, the videographers were always kind of this different breed in a sense, like the way they shoot, always kind of striving for, the different angles, different, concepts. But I kind of always looked as videographers as, those kind of underrated storytellers in a sense, because even just, a simple 10-second clip, can tell such an incredible story without, words or anything alongside with it. And, kind of along the same vein of photographers, I just look at, the videographers as those true kind of historians of the game in a sense, because, as I even mentioned with photos, like when 10, 20 years go by and all is done and gone, like that's the pieces we have left to remember, why right now was important.
Sam, your thoughts on the distinctions and the difference between videography and photography?
Yeah, so I'm definitely with Quinn on it as far as I'll talk about that next actually. So I am with Quinn on certain things, but for photography, I think that we capture the sport, like photographers themselves capture a sport, just that moment, whereas videographers, they're actually capturing the scene, if that makes any sense. And as Quinn said, that's capturing more of the story than a photo will. Like Verbal did a good job when he did his pictures, but there was no sound. There's a reason he switched to video. Sound is necessary for a lot of things. I don't know if that's the reason, but I'm going to assume it is. And that's what I think the difference between the paintball videographers and photographers is, one's capturing just the moment, the other one's capturing the scene. I don't agree that videographers are the historians, because at the end of the day, YouTube can go away, TikTok can go away, Facebook can go away. But what's not going to go away is somebody's going to have somewhere those photos still and still be able to get them out there, whether it's in print, whether it's just on their hard drive. Somebody's going to have that. It's a lot easier to distribute photos. I feel like that's what really keeps history alive.
So we had the photographers, Quinn, here. Before we let Sam go and move on, we got to get Joey Blute up next and get his thoughts on things. It's such a fun, and intellectual mind. As always, I love Joey, and his take on things is he don't mess around much. It definitely shoots it straight. But let's talk about the videographers, because we got Danny Lincoln, Enrique, Brian Wolf, David, CJ. What do you think? I mean, Quinn, we'll start with you, and then Sam will get your close before we get Joey in here talking about these videographers, though.
Yeah, so again, video has become wildly popular with the introduction of reels and shorts. So there's been a lot of kind of new competition in that. When we kind of look at videographers at Iconic, we really kind of dial and focus in on the guys doing unique and, kind of truly interesting stuff. They don't necessarily have to be guys doing like full edited cuts. I mean, it can be guys that are just real monsters, on Instagram, for instance. But I mean, first of all, you have a guy like CJ Cantu. I mean, it's wild to think that this is a guy that's, playing pro events, and then these incredible edited cuts just come out of nowhere from him. It's amazing that he kind of finds the time to, put those together. And I think his style is very unique and refreshing in the game. Then of course, kind of like Sam mentioned with a guy like Verb, I mean, in terms of just technical excellence, it probably doesn't get better than Verbal. I mean, that's a guy that's constantly striving to just be at the top of his game in terms of just pure quality. I'd love to hear kind of what Sam thinks about the videographers of the year, just because, he's, kind of a videographer himself.
I think that the lineup that we have for the videographers of the year is probably going to be the toughest thing to actually vote on for whoever's voting on it, whether it's the people or you guys, whoever the panel is. How do you compete with any of these guys? They're all doing things in such a unique way. As you said, CJ with playing and then putting out these videos. Who else is out here doing that on that level? Enrique puts out his 60-second shorts, but they're all heavily edited. It's incredible. Quitman on here. I mean, it's nothing. You can't really look at these guys and say none of these guys deserve it. Every single person on this list is just as deserving as the other person for everything that they do, and I think it's very tough. So I'm sorry to everyone that has to do it.
Is it a knock against Quitman as he's kind of moved on a bit, or are we going to put him legacy in and give him the nod because of his previous work? What do you guys think before we get Joey in here?
So he had such a, like, obviously he's been incredible for 6-7 years now, but I mean, even if you just talk about what he did to open the year, I mean, what he does with, one or two of the big games he covers, I think he's groundbreaking enough that his still, I guess, slightly limited this year portfolio can still really carry him to a nomination like this.
I mean, he did, he's kind of a bit of a traitor as he went to Airsoft, and how, no, I'm just kidding. No, David Quitman's awesome. And that's fine. It's all battle sports to me. This is all force on force type stuff. So whether it does, I just thought I'd bring it up because it was kind of a thing, but because we did lose. Yeah, I agree too. I'd agree too, but I have to be a little contrary.
Yeah,
to do my job here.
It's interesting as well, because then, I mean, you think a guy like Danny Lincoln, who's kind of, that heir apparent at HK now, he's really intriguing to me because, not only does he do on the field stuff, but like he does product videography, probably better than anyone in the sport right now. Like some of the stuff HK puts out just on products, the coverage they do that he gets is just phenomenal, and it's interesting, and it's something that non-paintball players can kind of catch on TikTok, and it's enthralling. So, a lot of heavy hitters in here.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, this is such a fundamental part of the game that people don't really see. This is the sausage being made. This is heroes being put into the world for other people to consume. And it happens with people, the 5 that you're seeing here, the photographers as well, too. Sam, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate everything you're doing for the sport. If we don't have people like you, it's like people say, oh, Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm like, yeah, dude, but they were putting bricks in the wall every single day. And the videographers, the photographers, the people that create the products, the people that run the companies, Darren Cesena, our producer behind the scenes, Quinn doing all this work to put all this stuff up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens to make that beautiful visual that you consume that go, dude, paintball's super sweet. I love it. This is amazing. That was awesome. Or this story was super cool. A lot of work goes in. And awards like this, nominations like this, it goes to give nods to people that deserve it because of all the hard work that they put in, standing out there in the elements to steal these souls and capture these moments. So, Sam, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you both of you for having me.
So, Quinn, moving on, we got Joey Blute coming in here. What else do we got? What do we got coming up here? We got John Dresser, we got Connor Kelly, we got Jen Falk, we got some people that I'm really excited to discuss things with. And we still got a decent amount of the iconic list to get to here as far as the nominees are concerned. We would like to welcome Big Joey Blute, Tampa Bay Damage. Joey, how you doing, bud? Uh-oh, we got an audio issue. God damn it, Joey. Figured we could count on you to have your audio working. Quinn, hype Joey up he can get his audio working.
Hold on.
Oh, he's good. He's good to go.
Hello.
Yeah, there we go. So,
there we go.
Yeah, we got Joey's audio in here now. Kind of hype him up a little bit. I mean, we're bringing in a guy here, event-winning coach this year, one of the best coaches in the league. Kind of that de facto GM type team runner where he's a builder of men and talent in the sport of paintball, and he's always been that guy that can kind of bring rosters together in a unique way. And I mean, the way Joey's coached this year, I mean, he's kind of been that new meta of the ultra deep roster where he's constantly bringing in fresh lines, fresh legs, and giving you constantly new looks, and it's making his team difficult to scout. And they found a lot of success in that.
Yeah, so Joey, obviously you're up for Coach of the Year with Kevin Brethauer, Dave Baines, Mike Bianca, Brad McCurley from the Heroines. Who also you've coached to a victory. He was one of your players as well, too. That's kind of a cool look for Brad. And then Team of the Year as well, too, with Dynasty Impact, Heat Damage, and the Heroines. Joey, you're another dude that you and I could spend, and Quinn, we could all spend 5 hours talking about the 15,000 different categories that we have here. So we do got to kind of dial this in a little bit here. Let's just get your thoughts real quick, Joey, on the fact that damage was so good this year. Because this is the thing. People come into the league. I love this tidbit information that an old man gave me at one point in time. And it was like, hey, what's the key to success? And it's like, be so good that you cannot be ignored at whatever it is that you're doing. And that was absolutely Tampa Bay damage this year. You guys were so good that no one could ignore you. First of all, you won a crazy event at the event in Texas. And then you guys were battling out the last event, got to Dynasty, ended up not working out for you. Now you pick up Rainey. I mean, damage is making moves, and damage has been making moves. So you guys are so good that you cannot be ignored. So congratulations, because a lot of that, we talk about hard work in this show right now. A lot of these people, reason why people are on these lists is because of hard work. Bro, you've been working your ass off to make sure the Tampa Bay damage will not be ignored, because that's how good you guys are. So break it down for me real quick. Coach of the year, team of the year, Tampa Bay damage, and it could be even a better year for you guys next year. So, but we're talking about 2022 right now.
So 2022, I appreciate what you guys are saying. It's great. I don't have much to say about that. I'm not really good at taking compliments. So, but thank you. As far as damage and where we're at and coach of the year, whatnot, coach of the year wise, like, it's SK's to lose. If he doesn't win, I will be somewhat offended. Team of the year, you got to give it to Dynasty as well. If they don't win, I will be offended. Take that as you might. 2022 was a good year for damage. We were able to turn the corner and get a win again and start to push that we are wanting to do, right? We're close. We knew we were close. We made the first big offseason play this year. And to this point, in my opinion, the biggest play by picking Rainey back up again. I feel we come back with the same team we had last year plus Rainey. We should be able to slay the dragon. I feel we were close to slaying the dragon this year in Florida. World Cup, the score looks like it was horrible, but that layout, you go down a point or two, it's almost impossible to come back on somebody. And we tried to actually fight back and get those points, but they're a really good team. They're really disciplined. And that layout, once you're up, you get to 2 spots, you can lock that thing down and stop anyone from coming. We had a couple uncharacteristic penalties, 2 points in a row to put us down by the 3, and then we had to fight. It is what it is. They outplayed us. We need to be better. I promise you, if things go the way they should, we should be the team that I'm saying Dynasty was last year. We should be in 2023.
It would make things very dramatic if that's the case. So it would make my job a little bit easier. Quinn, your thoughts on Damage's performance, and then Joey, I would like to get your thoughts on, any of your thoughts you have on any of the, awards that or the nominees for these awards so far. But yeah, any questions for Joey, Quinn?
Honestly, I think, you've covered it a little bit before, but I think kind of when we look at coaches of the year, a lot of it comes down to like, what are those keystone moments from the season? And of course, with you guys, it comes down to that finals match in the event you had won. From a coaching standpoint, what's your thought process there, especially even something like, the end coming down to the one-on-one, like putting the trust in someone like Jacob to just, put your coaching into effect and win that for the team?
So something that we do that I know a lot of other teams don't do is we actually practice one-on-ones. We do a shitload of practicing of one-on-ones. I know people play one-on-ones, whatever, but we actually go out and beat each other up in one-on-ones. So I have a really good understanding of who our better one-on-one players are. And then it's a matter of the situation and who it is and how they're playing up to that point, right? Like Jacob was playing awesome that event. It was the first time he had played that 3 position, and he was controlling that line well. Him and Brad were working really well together. And those 2 guys were putting it together. One-on-one wise, Brian Smith and Jacob Edwards are our best one-on-one players, period. The reason why Brian got the nod over Jacob, because Jacob came off the field the point before, and he was a little more gassed than Brian, not by much, literally like fill my pack and I'm good. But I was like, Brian, go. I had faith in both those guys to do that. Honestly, that team that they had compared to our team, I would have gone from top to bottom roster and been confident in any of my guys beating any of their guys. And that's not meaning in a disrespectful way. It's just meaning we actually work on one-on-ones. I can almost guarantee you that as a team, Impact does not work on one-on-ones. They don't have time to. So I felt very comfortable with what we were doing.
It's interesting because I literally did interviews for Defining Moments episode 2, where obviously you guys are going to be the big heroes. And we already did the interview with Jacob and Jason for that at Cup before the hurricane hit. But so I sat down with Brandon Cornell last night and discussed things with him. And he also didn't go out for the first one. He was going to go out for the first one, but it was a similar situation where, so him and Jacob ended up getting faded together to be the second guys out because both of them were a little bit, not completely gassed, but, Brandon was kind of saying that, Zach was like, I'll go, because Brandon was a little winded from the point before, and it was kind of a similar situation for you guys. But it's interesting that both of your number one one-on-one guys went second because they were a little winded. And that was such a historic story because, both Jacob and Brandon were teenage phenoms from different sides of the United States. They both have become incredibly prolific as attackers and amazing. And you could say that Brandon has had a little bit more of a successful career because he's been with Impact and their wins. But now here comes Jacob storming back. And that was and then Jacob also, he won a one-on-one for you guys. Again, just going back and rewatching for, I don't know how many times now, but to take all these notes for Defining Moments. But yeah, dude, Jacob Edwards is so good at one-on-ones. Like, I understand why you have complete faith on him, because I hear the stories from you, and I don't know, all the guys that I talk to on Damage when I talk about the one-on-ones. And then we see it, though. We see that happen with Jacob in those situations. So, but anyway, we could spend hours talking about this, and you guys will be able to see all this in the documentaries. And we've had Joey on shows. We're going to continue to have Joey Blue come on shows. But it is really interesting for next year because you guys are going to be really tough. Do you have any, from what you've heard, Joe, I think before we let you go, because we got to get on to John Dresser here in a little bit. Do you, we like to argue sometimes for fun. Do you have any disagreements on any of the nominees we've seen? Anything that's come up so far? Is there something you want to bring up so we could argue about it? I'm always down to argue with you about
argument
things.
Wise, honestly, if you didn't put Brian Smith on there somewhere, we would have had an argument. But Brian Smith is arguably the most underrated. He's probably the most underrated paintball player in the world. Obviously, the guys that play against him know who he is, but the average person couldn't put Brian out of a lineup until maybe today that they've seen him on the Iconic Awards, and that guy's been top tier. I mean, you heard Marcelo. That list of guys you have on there are all superstars, and the one he was most enthralled with was Brian. Like, yep. I feel like there's some guys that get passed over in this league just because they're not those guys on social media. They're not those guys doing all the advertising of themselves, which, those guys are those guys, right? Like, I mean, for God's sakes, Brian shares a Facebook account with his wife. Like, he's not the guy who's going to get on social media and come out and tell everyone how great he is, right? Like, he does it on the field. And the guys that play pro know who Brian Smith is, but it's good to see that you guys are actually digging a little deeper than the surface area and actually getting, some of the guys that truly deserve that have put their time in and still are top tier guys. So, and as a false flag, Brian Smith will be playing this year.
I was going to say, like, what's the deal now that I hear this rumor that Smith won't be there? I'm thinking, Joey, come on, bro, general manager, you got to keep Smith in the game, bro, because he's so good.
That's my job. I do my job really well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you do. You do your job very well. And I'm not just bullshitting you because you're here right in front of my face. I really appreciate all the things you do for this game, Joey, and I really do appreciate you keeping the fire lit for one of the best teams ever, definitely the best team from Florida, Tampa Bay Damage. And yeah, Brian Smith is, again, if you go back and anyone that spends any time really watching this game and consuming it and understanding who does what out there, yeah, Brian Smith is as legit as it gets. I wish you the best of luck, Joey, moving forward. Tampa Bay Damage is going to be super fun to watch in 2023. Obviously picking up Rainey and who knows what else you guys have in your cards, but you don't need to make any other moves. Things are set for you guys. I know you like to throw the dice, but I just, I don't think you need to make any other moves as things are, again, already super good for you guys. Quinn, anything you got for Joey before we let Joey go and get into John Dresser?
Honestly, I'm just excited to see it, man. With the roster you're putting together, we have a legitimate dynasty contender. So.
Ooh.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah, no, I definitely, that's the kind of the question, right? I mean, the question is who is going to step up to deal with San Diego Dynasty? That's the question. I mean, is it going to be Heat? Is it going to be Impact? Is it going to be Damage? Is it going to be one of these up and coming teams? Who is it going to be? That's the question. And you can tell that Damage gives a shit and is trying to be that number one team because they're working as hard as they can. The moves they've made the past couple seasons, now picking up, going in to get a Rainey. I mean, that's huge, and Rainey has proved to be a difference maker for the past couple seasons, not even counting the years before that. But we saw what he did for X Factor and the wars that they had with Dynasty. And then, he got his back hurt, but now he's good to go. So, it's going to be Damage stacking up is going to make this year very, very interesting. So I'm excited about it.
All right. Make sure SK wins Coach of the Year. I'll take runner up, and then Dave can have third.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's how my vote's going, brother. So we're on the same page.
If anyone but SK wins it, then burn it down.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's my vote, but I only got one vote. So, but that's definitely my vote. I'm with you on that. All right, Joey, mad respect,
boys,
brother.
appreciate you.
We'll talk to you soon. Yeah, appreciate you too. Okay, so Quinn, going to be bringing John Dresser in here. Definitely got a soft spot in my heart for John Dresser. He's been around for a long time. As we used to play against each other back in the day, and then now he's kind of been, working behind the scenes and helping guide this ship for JT and a lot of the cool stuff that you guys see that's been breaking. I mean, he helped me create my throwback excessive jerseys. He did all those, all the new colorways and all the stuff that's coming out. From the JT line has been John Dresser. And so Quinn, kind of lay this down for me here. Why are we putting John Dresser? I mean, we know why, but explain to the people out there why John's on this list.
John actually, I guess, kind of appears twice on this list in a sense. So first of all, our Supporter of the Year category kind of looks to honor those behind the scenes people that might not always get the credit for, the wins that happen or the great products that come out, or just even, generally growing the game. And I think when you talk about an award like that, John has to be in that conversation. I mean, he's incredible in the sense that he's just so humble and so selfless in the way he works in the industry and the way he helps pro players on and off the field. So he's kind of a no-brainer as a Supporter of the Year, and I'm super happy that he's one of the nominees this year for that category.
Yeah. So let's talk about this as we bring John in here, hopefully. But let's talk a little bit about, there he is, John Dresser, the legend himself. But yeah, well, first of all, John, how you doing? Uh-oh, got a little audio issue here.
We'll get that figured out here in a second, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll get that figured out. But yeah, so talk about the Supporter of the Year. So we got, Josh Howe, we got the Planet Eclipse team, Russell Jackson, we got Fran, big fan of Fran. And so this is another one of those where it's like, these are the people behind the scenes and motivating how this all works and enable people to be great. That's what the Supporter of the Year essentially is about. So break it down for me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this year was a little interesting too, because, in the past year or so, and kind of the logic has been, we've always looked at one person for each nomination category. And we looked at something like when we started looking at techs, for instance, I mean, Eclipse is, right up there at the top with like an elite tech team. And it was so hard to kind of dial it into just one individual tech. So we kind of nominated the entire Planet Eclipse tech team as a whole, because they've just been so great at supporting pro players, divisional players, and just generally growing the game itself. And then one guy too that I really thought was important to kind of mention here was Fran over at Victory Paintball Park. I mean, in the modern day SoCal pro scene, I mean, Fran has been a huge supporter of that, whether it's letting pros practice at his field, setting up huge mega practices during the off season. And, I just think giving guys like that notoriety is important, because Fran is a guy, you just never hear his name in a normal conversation, but he's so critical to the growth of the sport.
Yeah, no, and this is kind of that's the key moment, right? Is that fundamental to the growth of the sport. So you have these people that are moving and shaking and trying to make things happen out on the field, and then you have a guy like Fran that's running a paintball park, that's allowing people the fundamental bedrock to become great paintball players. Russell Jackson.
Does it work now?
Yes, I can hear you, John. So yeah, again, Josh at HK, Drawn Dresser. So John, maybe we could bring you in here at this moment. How you doing, bud?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it looks like it's
here,
delayed
man.
still.
Yeah, it's okay, but we can hear you, and that's the most important thing. Because we need to get your thoughts on this. I mean, you've been around for so long. You've been an amazing player, obviously, since all the way back in the day. And for team, like Farside, but then with PB Nation, and then now with JT and Core, and like doing all the stuff you do behind the scenes. And I mean, you've been one of those guys that has seen the generational shift, but understanding that, hey, dude, we still need really cool stuff that we're gonna like all want to get behind from like a brand perspective. And so you've been one of the people leading the charge behind the scenes with this resurgence of the brand that we all know and love, which is JT. So I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts a little bit on how you look at the game, how you look at products, and how you look at this supporter of the year nominee that we're giving you, and how you look at that category, because you're definitely a huge supporter of the game at its highest level, man. Like, you are a big part of this game that we love.
I think the biggest thing is that I start off as a big fan of it and appreciate all of it in all different aspects, not just the tournament side. As far as being nominated in this, honestly, John Rathman deserves quite a bit of the credit for getting JT started and rolling, and getting our soft goods side also with JT back up and running. I got to step in after he was already had a plan and already really believed in JT, which is something that it felt like people hadn't believed in a while. And behind the scenes, I'm not just dealing with JT, but also with the paint at events, also with the booth at events, and then not at events. When I go to skirmish, I'm dealing with Tipman and dealing with other core brands. So it's a lot of fun that I get to be part of so many of the iconic paintball brands and products. Obviously, for this year, it was the Proflex. The Proflex was underappreciated for years, and then I think I helped a little bit bring it back with the snow camo release before I started, and then now it's been all sorts of fun to help all these private label releases for the Proflex. We released 33 different Proflexes this last year. It's insane.
No, but honestly, just to me, I don't know. It's one of those things where it just makes sense. And having grown up in a world, I'm from San Diego, and JT basically I got a chance to interview and hang out with John Greger, knew him pretty well back in the day, and so JT is just TJ backwards, and TJ's right down the street from San Diego. So being in that realm a little bit, I've always been a big fan of the JT brand and the goggles. I wore them for a long period of time. So anyway, it's really cool to kind of see the resurgence. So when you're saying that all of these different incarnations and different, variations and graphic imprints that are coming out for this one specific, very iconic brand of goggle, it's like, yeah, it just makes all the sense in the world. It's one of those things where, so you hear about an invention, you're like, oh, well, how did no one figure this out before? It's like the tank, like Carl's tank tool. I'm like, how did no one come up with this before? It's kind of like what you guys are doing, reviving the JT brand. I'm like, yeah, how did no one do this before? This makes so much sense. Why just make a ton of cool shit from JT that people are going to want to buy because it's, a badass goggle, and like everyone wants a flashy paint job on whatever it is that they're wearing, whether it be a jersey, a pair of pants, a gun, or a goggle. It just makes so much sense. So thank you for making some really cool, or like being the vanguard on the creative side of things, or being one of those guys that's helping facilitate that becoming a reality, because it's important. It's like when I made my jersey, remade the jersey, you were my point of contact. You're like, all right, we can do this, we can do that. What do you want to do? If it wasn't for you, a lot of that stuff doesn't happen. So you're kind of like a lever. You're like a lever for the creative things that are trying to happen in the world. And we do appreciate that, because it's important, because what is a lever? A lever is a mechanical device that can, apply the laws of physics to lift way more than it should be able to lift. And John, you magnify your personality and your ability to do to organize things, and you were able to lift a lot more than we would all be able to lift without you. So I appreciate you and your efforts.
You are too kind. It's funny that you said TJ, but didn't explain it. The name JT comes from the city of Tijuana down in Mexico.
Yes.
And that is
Sorry,
how John Gregory
as a San
originally
Diegan,
named
I kind
it.
of assume that everyone knows what that means, but yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, and then it's like, so Quinn, if we could bring you in a little bit here, what do you think about product of the year? I mean, product of the year is, for a paintball fan, it's like, yeah, as we're all paintball nerds here on the pro game, and we kind of nerd out about who had this move or this teams or that, but for a lot of people, it's just about what badass product came out. And so if we could kind of talk about product of the year, like, what do you think? If you could kind of set that up a little bit for us.
Yeah, so the product of the year is a tough category because naturally there's very vibrant communities around each product and brand. That's kind of why I've always kind of called this the editor's choice, because that kind of makes it a little less chaotic, because I say, hey, these are like 5 products at Iconic that were really enjoyed this year. Of course, when we look at a list like that, the JT Proflex limited edition stuff was one of the first things we thought of. I mean, John has really been able to kind of redefine what the Proflex is in a sense. I mean, it was always obviously a very fashionable mask, but the level of kind of creativity and individuality he's been able to kind of help grow this year with such a massive amount of releases and just constantly coming out with new and interesting designs kind of made it an easy choice for the product of the year. And then, on top of that else, I mean, there's a lot of other great things that came out this year. I mean, you had the Dye DLS, which was a huge success at the end of the year. The infamous modular gear bag was another favorite of ours. The carbon mask, which was a little bit of a competitor to the Proflex, kind of brought a unique take on a mask this year. And then, of course, the final one in that category is the TM40 mech frame, which was incredibly popular amongst players throughout the league.
Yeah, and then, I mean, John, if we could just kind of touch base again with you before we let you go, as far as where your mind's at right now. I mean, you've been doing this for so long. So, I mean, how do you kind of look at product development? How do you kind of look at, I mean, and sometimes it's development of just a theme or like a graphic within the context of the history of a team or a player almost, and caretaking that, so it's multifaceted. It's not just the product, it's also the aesthetic of the product too. Because when you're dealing with an iconic product like a JT, we'll just, again, pick one of, but specifically the goggle, but it's, but also that the teams you're working with. I mean, how are you looking at that sort of thing?
Honestly, I'm looking at it through the lens of JT has been around for 40 years in paintball this year. It's absolutely insane. And the Proflex itself has been out since the mid 90s. But for the modern revival of the Proflex, I give X Factor an amazing amount of credit. That X Factor wanted to use the goggle when it wasn't being promoted and brought it back to the forefront, and that was the year that they won 2 events as well. So I think X Factor did a huge thing with that launch, or the relaunch of the Proflex. And then obviously it's impossible to talk about the Proflex and not bring up Dynasty. That from when I started at Core, one of the first things Rathman and I talked about was bringing back Dynasty and just how iconic it would be for the team that was known as the JT Factory team to come back to JT. And then no one could have predicted the year that they would have. That funny enough, when we were talking to them, it's like, some of you guys are about to be 40. Is your heart really in this still? Or are you guys just doing this because you've always done it? And they were like, we're going to win this year, dude. We're going to be so good. And it was hard to believe.
And sure enough,
unbelievable. And then the same thing that if you guys did a moment of the year for Iconic, Oliver getting that first JT jersey that he's worn since 2005 was one of my favorite moments of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. John, thank you for all that you're doing. I really appreciate you personally as a friend and as a fellow paintball scholar, because that's definitely been your role for a long period of time. But also, and if people don't know, I mean, John slaughters it on the field too. So go play a big game with John. Go if you might play against him in a 10-man, but Good luck, because he's still got it after all these years, John, man. I really, again, it just, you're a blessing to the paintball scene, and I'm so happy that you're still here. Thank you for all that you do. And then just real quick before we let you go, John, what are the plans for 2023? Because I'm guessing you're not just gonna rest on your laurels here.
Got some things in the works that I'm hoping come out this year. Obviously for JT, the neatest thing right now that people know about is the Triad loader. It's been a long time since JT's been in the loader game. We have things related to the Proflex, obviously, and related to JT at large. And then working with Empire, we were very happy to get Damage wearing the Empire goggles, and get Damage just wearing more of our gear. They shot our paint, and they won their first event in most of a decade. I don't know how long, but it was a
very exciting. Like 9.5 years.
Yeah. So, and funny enough, that's what Joey said when we started picking him up. He's like, "We're gonna win an event this year." And I was like, "You tell me that every year, Joey." He's like, "Yeah, but we're on it." He's like, "We've got a good team. We've got a solid team. And more importantly, we've got that last piece of the puzzle." And he was completely right, that they were competitive, and they were right in it all the way till the finals of World Cup. So that was an absolute pleasure.
Quinn, you got anything for John before we let him go?
Yeah, one quick question, because a couple of people asked it in the live chat. Is JT or PB Retro going to be coming out with any additional clear colorways?
So the only clears that were in development up until World Cup, you got to see at World Cup. As far as an actual clear, we don't even have a sample. There's not even one in the works. So who knows how long that will take. Guys that are familiar with the R&D side of things know that products don't just materialize. It takes most of a year, especially in these post-COVID, during COVID times. So there are no clears coming. So that will make some of the collectors happy. That will make a lot of people sad. Obviously, it's something we would love to do, but we'll see.
Anyone that has a clear from back in the day is like, yes, it's going to be $8,000. $8,000 if anyone wants it. And everyone that wants it is like, wait a second, can we get some modern clear? What's the deal here? So, yeah.
Funny enough, the very first pro event I ever played, I played in the ESPN clears. So clear goggles have always been a piece of dear to my heart. By those, I mean I played in the hard plastic Pro Shield ones that were all clear, that they only made a couple hundred of just for ESPN. So, and then when they released clears, that John Gregory handed me personally one of the first sets ever. And then when Key released clears, I got one of the first samples and started wearing it. So obviously I love them. In fact, with PB Retro, that was the goggle I wanted to make. When I approached JT, actually, when JT said, "Put your money where your mouth is," because I talked a lot of trash about how they were underserving that brand and how it was such a great brand.
You were
I
right.
wanted to do a clear. Yeah, I wanted to do a clear, and they couldn't do it, unfortunately. So maybe someday, but no day soon.
Yeah, it's crazy that all these years later, we still can't figure the clear out. But certain people that had them, like Catfish Arcilla, Kevin Catfish Arcilla, he had one. He made like $4,000 off of it. So if you got one kind of chilling in your garage, you definitely should pull that thing out and sell it, because it might be a little bit of a, like, I don't know, like a hot tub in your backyard, a little bit of a 6 months of a car payment or whatever. But that is just the nature of the beast. But yes, we would go for it.
Definitely a piece of paintball history. What Maddie's talking about is the hard plastic ESPN clears. And Maddie, you'll appreciate this. This arrived in the mail today.
Oh, you got a paraplegic turtle? I played on the turtles. Is that like an authentic one? That's not a replica. Is that a real one? Wow, you got a Dale Price paraplegic turtles jersey? Get out of here, dude.
Not just A. That's the one from ESPN. From the ESPN finals, where
he
they
wore
should have won.
The ESPN. Wow. See, that's what I'm talking
And
about,
for
John.
people listening who don't know either, the Paraplegic Turtles were a team in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Dale Price was their captain, and he had lost his leg. So he lost his
leg in a motorcycle accident.
Prosthetic.
Yeah. Yeah. And also a solid gold dude. Solid gold dude. I played on the team. I mean, before we went to the Ironman, I was on the Paraplegic Turtles with Todd Martinez, Mike McLaughlin, Davey Williamson. I mean, he was a bit of a paintball patron himself with his modest means. But yeah, dude, Paraplegic Turtles, that's amazing. That's a big slice of paintball history, man. Good for you, John. As always, it never disappoints. So John, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We got to get Connor Kelly in here. He's going to be coming up next. But yeah, you are a special person in this grand theme that we call paintball, and we really do need more of John Dressers. So if you could just kind of like maybe through osmosis, just kind of like cultivate some personalities around you. I'm not saying that like you're ever going to go away, but if I could have like 5 John Dressers, the world would be a better place.
You are too kind. Take care, Maddie. Keep up doing what you do, both of you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. So Quinn, what do we got next? So we've had, again, you've done such a solid job with all of these different categories here, but what do we have left? Because we only have 2 more guests coming on here. We are going to have obviously another show as we move forward towards the season. But where do we sit right now?
So we each have a couple left here. Yeah, we're going to do jump in with Connor Kelly to talk about the breakout players of the year and the breakout teams of the year. And then we will wrap up with Jen Falk to talk a little bit WNXL and kind of get her take on the WNXL player of the year.
All right. So yeah, if we could bring Connor Kelly in here, that would be awesome. So Connor has definitely been, and I'm hoping, oh, damn it, I was going to hope I could say this before he got in here, but Connor's been one of my favorite guys to watch on the up and coming dudes here, because people ask me all the time. They're like, all right, Maddie, paintball is, quote unquote, getting older. We have dudes that are 40 years old that are out here winning paintball tournaments, and what's going to happen next? And I'm thinking, bro, well, I've been here for a while, and it's always, I'm not scared at all about the future, because it's always next man up, next team up. Now, teams that are legendary are going to stay around until someone can knock them off that high horse. So Dynasty is going to continue to try to dominate until somebody can step up and take them down. But and again, Connor, maybe earmuffs a little bit real quick. When I look at a Connor Kelly, and I see guys like that out there, and I know that our future is bright, because there are a lot of up and coming players, and I hear about them before I see them typically. And then I see them on the main stage. And then I know that once the guys that can't do it anymore for whatever reason, either they don't want to do it, or they can't do it physically, or whatever happens, we are having another generation coming up. So maybe, so Connor, welcome to the show. And maybe we start there,
Thanks,
Connor.
Maddie.
I mean, you are representing the next generation, because I was going back and watching some tape, or watching a lot of tape to create defining moments. And I was listening to, it was you, me, and Thomas Taylor at Sacramento. And, it was Thomas's 20th anniversary. And I was kind of messing with Thomas a little bit, because I was like, hey, Connor, tell Thomas when you were born, and then you were kind of basically born the same year that he started playing pro paintball. But this is just how it works. This is just the transference of knowledge. This is just the next generation stepping up. But you are kind of leading that charge. So let's start there. How do you feel about that? Now you make the move to Houston Heat. This is just something that we need to get you on I know you've talked about with other storytellers, and God bless you for it. But this is a longer story. I don't want to, we can't go into the weeds here. But now you're making the move to go to Houston Heat. It's a big move for you. But you are kind of leading the charge as this next generation all around the year, between 25 and 15. That 10-year bracket, that's going to be your guys' generation kind of coming up here. How are you feeling about this move and this breakout player of the year moniker that you could potentially be winning?
I think it's crazy, man. I mean, like you said about Thomas back in like 2002. It's 2014. I'm just now getting into the game, and I'm watching you commentate PSP games with Todd, all these guys. Just watch it all and be like, this is what I want to do. And then now being in the position, talking to you like this, like being nominated for an award involving paintball. I just think it's crazy. Playing on a team like Houston Heat now, it's gonna be crazy.
So let's get a look here at the breakout players. So Quinn, talk me through this list real quick.
So yeah, of course, the breakout players are kind of the players that came into the year, maybe, not with low expectations, but, they came in at, say level B, and then by the end of the year, they were at that A+ level, kind of making the conversation as, a top level player in the league with the impact they made. Connor Kelly, for sure. Connor, you're probably one of the few people that has just made me absolutely eat my words from the beginning of a season to the end. Like, I remember when the All-Star came around, I was a little bit outspoken. I mean, by the end of the year, I'm kind of looking back like, man, what an idiot for not like buying into this guy. Like, you've just been so incredible. And the fact that you're 20 years old, I mean, like, it's mind-boggling me. Like, right now, the average age of a player winning an event is like 32. And I mean, to see you at 20, and I mean, you're going to pretty much be right on that cusp of winning some events here soon is incredible. And then, of course, next to some of these other players, Jared Lackey, of course, came in big this year and was hitting some home runs. Jen Falk, which is one of our WNXL nominees across some of these categories. I mean, she was, to me, an MVP level player in the WNXL for her team to win, the inaugural seasonal championship. And then, of course, the Hurricanes in their rookie year, Drew Bell was big for them. I mean, he's a great center player. He's always a guy that's going to be someone you got to be paying attention to on the field. And he's a very poised player. And then Kyle coming from a local Northeast team up here, the Hurricanes, and kind of helping save the season for the Ironmen kind of became a no-brainer.
Yeah, and if you look at this list, it's it's just what we would want a breakout player list to be. I mean, this is a list of people that are going to be making waves, or potentially are trying to make waves moving forward. So Connor, that's kind of my question to you. I mean, how do you feel the current new crop of paintball people coming up? Like, how fertile is that ground? I mean, when you're looking at people that are around your age, again, it could be girls, guys, because I think the WNXL is an amazing thing. I love because dude, when I first started playing pro, 16 years old on a team called Navron from like the 80s, back in the day, it was just pro and amateur. That was it. There were no levels. We didn't have all these different divisions, and I mean, it was very stratified in very small amounts. So it was very difficult to tier your way up. And now we have like all this ability for people to have any entry point they possibly could imagine to have their chance to shine. And then once that happens, all right, well, then you have to prove yourself. You've proven yourself. Do you feel like that you're just one of many, and that the wave is going to come after you? Because eventually we are going to see a churn. I mean, you can't play forever, man. Guys that are 40, they can't play at 60. Maybe they can. I don't know. Prove me wrong, Ryan. I'm not trying to hate on you, dog. But it's just, what are your thoughts on this transitionary period we're looking at right now?
I definitely don't want to say there's like many like me, but I want to stay humble about it, But like coming from CFP and seeing like a lot of the younger guys that are my age coming from MVPS and SPL, like the level of pro that we're at right now is tough. So when it comes to that, that's the norm. And there's always the people that are trying to evolve past that. Like if you look past Dynasty, like they came into the game, showed everybody what diving, running, and gunning, opposite hands, like actual correct movements, changed the game forever. And then now what's the next evolution to this game? And it's these young kids are going to find it. You know what I mean?
What do you think about that other list? I mean, with Jen up there, with just in general, I mean, you got, obviously it's a little bit different with Jen with WNXL. That's a different story. We're going to have her on next. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. But you are a little bit of a special talent, bro. Like, I'm not trying to like start carrying your goggles around in a semi truck, and blow your head up, but it has been cool to see your transition. But this is a really big moment for you going to Heat. I literally spent the 4 or 5 hours last night with Brandon Cornell at his house discussing the year that Impact had, and remembered a conversation that I had with him when he was 20, when he was your age. Similar situation where he had a decision to stay with the Ironman at the time or go to Impact. If he stayed with the Ironman, he would be the man there. He would play every single point. He would be the poster boy for Die. And if he went to Impact, the playing time is not assured. And maybe that would be the end of his career. Who knows? But maybe he wouldn't play much. And you're in that same boat, And he was stoked that you decided to go to Heat. Like Brandon was like, yeah, let's see what Connor's got, let's go. And he's 26, 27. Like he's not that far ahead of you. But that dude's been playing at a high level since he was 16 years old. So you see these people over time, and I've always used Brandon as an example, but you're in that boat, bro. Like you are in that boat right now, so you're going to Heat and you need to earn all that playing time. That's a Lion's Den, and those dudes are, savages. You've been able to play as many points as you wanted to on ML Kings. If you stay on the ML Kings, you're going to be their all-star. You're going to play every single point at every game all year long, and that is not assured on Heat. So it's kind of cool to see you decide to take that big bite and go over there. Before we kind of go in and talk a little bit more, I would not be doing my job if I didn't get your thought on the precipice of your career right now and as it's going forward here with this move to Heat. What do you think?
I mean, I find it I think it's super important. Playing with this team and with these players that are held to that level of a professional athlete on every point of paintball, it's just giving me more motivation than I've ever had. You know what I mean? To bring every aspect of my life into professional at the Houston Heat level, and just knowing that I'm the young buck, right? Like I have a lot to prove. There's a lot of knowledge to soak up. Like you got guys, Todd Martinez on there, and not even including the whole lineup. Like I'm teammates with Fedorov. Like I've grown up watching that guy, dude. Like sitting in my living room, working on his high dives, like how he dives over lanes. I was like, that's genius. I was like, you just dive over him. Like don't worry about running through him. It's just now I get to call that guy a teammate and just pick his brain. That's all I'm gonna do. Just pick people's brains for the next 3 to 4 years, and this is that next step to the evolution of my game. But I think being at the bottom of the totem pole with all this possibilities of getting to play points after that, is just bringing me so much motivation. So I love it.
Man, I can't wait to see it. I'm so happy for you. Having kind of been down this road a bit and talked to so many people that have been down this road. It's a special thing, 20 years old playing for Heat, dude. God bless you. Quinn, let's talk about Flex Players of the Year before we head to jump into Jen and our last guest here. We will have more information coming at you here about the Iconic Awards as we build towards actually giving these people their just due and the people they're going to win in these categories. But yeah, Quinn, so let's talk a little bit about Flex Player.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch back in on it a little bit because I wasn't sure whether Connor was in here or not. But obviously, of course, in addition to the Breakout Player, you're on the list for the Flex Player of the Year as well. I mean, it's crazy, man. The level of versatility you showed was interesting to me because kind of as you watch the progression of the season, you really started the year out as a generally offensive guy. And then as the year went on deeper and deeper, like we started seeing you do, some more creative stuff like delays out of the center, kind of running out both ways. Like it was just, it's interesting for me to see just because it's so rare you see a guy come in at your age anymore at the level pro is with this level of versatility on the field. It's so common with guys your age, they come in and they can just do one thing really well and that's it. But I think you're incredibly talented and, a no-brainer for the Flex Player of the Year type nomination just because you truly do it all.
Thank you. That means a lot, dude. Just even 2 awards or just 1, like that's so crazy.
I just want to give props to Maddie too, man, because I honestly think Maddie was talking to me about you like before the season even started, it felt like, and the whole time I just kind of was like, yeah, we'll see. And I mean, he was just dead right.
Hey, I got my spies everywhere. So this is why when I say that I hear about you before I see you, that's a real thing because, I start trying to, it's important to me. This is a fascinating thing. It's like, who is going to take over, right? Like, how does this transference work? And a lot of times it's false hope. I see a lot of guys will come up and they don't mentally, physically they have it. They have the talent. They can do it physically, but they don't have the mental toughness. Connor, I I don't know you. I don't presume to know you well, but I definitely know people that know you. And I think you got a chance, bro. Like, yeah, I think you really do have a chance to persevere. And that was like with, when I mentioned Brandon Cornell, man, what a success story that Brandon's had. I mean, he's a starter on Edmonton Impact, and that was not a certain road for him when he went to that team. It's a good example for you to kind of look to. You probably maybe should reach out to Brandon and get some information from him about how he managed it. But it enlightens my soul to see paintball talent out there, like just charging it, playing hard, and really devoting themselves to it. But to see the brain alter what they need to alter when they need to alternate in order to have the trajectory that's needed to persevere in this lion's den that is pro paintball. It's Survivor Island. It's very difficult. So yeah, bro. Again, I kind of, when I'm dealing with dudes that are like 20, like I don't want to be like, oh yeah, dude, you're the second coming, dog. You're gonna be the most amazing dude out there, because you have enough people in your circle telling you that already. But we are expecting big things out of you, and we've had a little bit of these conversations before off camera, so you know how it is. But yeah, man, we definitely need the Connor Kellys of the world in this sport to push the old dudes to stick around as long as they can. And then through that, this is why I love that, the concept and the name of like Hormesis, because, that name is about, it's about poisoning yourself a little bit with stress. And in that stress becomes great strength. And that's what paintball is. That whole game of paintball in every way, shape, or form is about that. And I was again hanging out with Brandon, Cornell a little bit last night, is all the rest of life gets toned down a little bit when you live the paintball life, because it's just so difficult. You're dealing with all these different people and all these variables, and the weather and all these other human beings and all the organization and all this stuff and all these things that are going wrong, and now you got to deal with this, and when you deal with all that, the rest of life just gets tuned down a little bit. It's so much easier. So when I see you guys coming up, so I'm excited for your journey, Connor, and I'm so excited that I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do with Houston Heat. Before we let you go, I do have to ask you. I mean, kind of as the we've had these these guys come up, and they've been again these are people that all the Dynasty guys, the Brandon Cornells, the Justin Rabikoffs. Before that, we had different incarnations of it when I was coming up, but we've had these guys that kind of caught the zeitgeist, that caught that role early in their careers. Where is your head at right now? Like, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? Like, from your own mouth.
Someone's
got to be. How are you looking at this?
Someone's got to be better than Oliver Lang and Ryan Greenspan, dude. I'm gonna be that next one. I want to say that in the most humble way possible. It's gonna take some time. I mean, Houston Heat's that next step, but this is gonna be a year being humbled, working on my ego, and just making sure I just don't turn into a little, just jerk off. I want to just be great,
yeah,
feel great.
Yeah.
Like, I put so much into this sport so far, and this is just the beginning. Like, that's what I keep telling everybody. It's just the start. Houston Heat wasn't the end goal. It's just a stepping stone to get to that end goal, and the end goal is to be the best paintball player ever. So, in the most humble way possible, I'm going to do that. So,
no, hey, dude, you have to. You got to harness the ego, bro. Like, don't. Like the one thing in paintball is that the ego is it's an enemy, but it's a weapon. And if you can't figure out the difference between the two in the moment, it's not going to work out for you. And there's not necessarily a recipe for that. But when you look at all the greats, that's what's required. And obviously you're only 20, right? When do you turn 21? Like, when can I bring you to a bar and be like, all right, Connor, let's get a drink, bro, and let's talk about this. Where are you going with this shit?
October 15th is when I'll be good.
October 15th. All right, word.
I've turned down so many of those conversations, dude. All year, they're like, let's go out. I'm like, I just can't. So I'll let you know. I'll be at the hotel.
Hey, dude, I remember the same thing. When I first got on the Ironman, I wasn't 20 yet either. So I feel your pain. Yeah. So Quinn, any last questions for Connor before we let him go and we get in and start talking to Jen? Because I feel like the whole female side of things is, it's just such a huge growth moment for paintball. It's so cool. I mean, it's half the population, and yeah, why not? Right. So, I mean, Connor, obviously you know, you have a little bit of experience. Maybe before I get to Quinn, do you have any thoughts on the female explosion and how, you know, that's been a big thing in our sport here for the past couple of years, and we're starting to, and I think I'm rightfully so, putting some attention towards that.
Oh, I think it's awesome. I mean, seeing the evolution of the game, like even down to the kids, we have the youth division now, which I'm coaching a team, the ML kids. So it's just awesome to see, like having a WNXL, NXL, and the youth division. Like anybody can play paintball, and it's awesome. I mean, every WNXL girl, I tell them like your goal should be to go pro. That should be the main goal, and you'll be the best WNXL girl. So it's just really cool to see.
Absolutely. Quinn, as we let Connor go, any last thoughts here for Connor?
Dude, I mean, just honored for him to be one of the nominees. It's rare to see someone so humble at such a young age. So I can remember myself at his age, I was like a total bastard. So it's wild to see someone so humble, but so resolute in their focus of where they want to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, in there again with Flex Player of the Year, Ryan Greenspan, Brian Smith, Stephen Omar, Rainey Stanzik, and Connor Kelly for Flex Player of the Year. Also, Connor Kelly, potential Breakout Player of the Year. So, Connor, God bless you, man. Looking forward to seeing everything go down with you here for Houston Heat. But for Breakout Player of the Year, we also have Jared Lackey, Andrew Bell, Kyle Nicolau, and then Jen Falk. And Jen is going to be our last guest here. So, yeah, Quinn, you know, maybe we could kind of talk a little bit more about this Breakout Player before we bring Jen in. Where was the impetus? Like, why did you want to bring this into the Iconic Awards?
I just think it's important to kind of recognize the players that are coming up. It takes like so much work in the modern pro game to kind of join that. I mean, even like the top 50 conversation, it's so hard now compared to what it used to be. So I think it's important to kind of bring notoriety to the players that are really putting in the work to kind of find their way in the league. I mean, I love it because when I think to like last year, like someone like Chris Shear who won this award, I mean, last year was really his first like really big year on the pro division as like an elite player. And then, I mean, you look at him this year, he just carried that rate on and continued that elite level of play. And I think, you know, recognizing that's important to kind of keep everyone driving and churning towards something.
Yeah, I mean, you almost look at like the breakout players. It was like a Jared Lackey for damage, right? Like Jared comes in and he's going to push Keith to play to his next level. You look at a Connor and what he's doing. I mean, the way that Connor's playing, kind of pushing the whole league. You know, he's obviously pushing the ML Kings, but when you play the ML Kings, you got to deal with Connor and, you know, and then a guy like Donaldson and then Betancourt. Now Betancourt's moving around, kind of interesting to see how things work out with the ML Kings. And then Bell, I was kind of my issue with when I'm looking at, you know, breakout player in just with the Hurricanes, because it's like you could almost say there was like I could almost like just close my eyes and pull a couple of players. If I put 4 bodies in for the Hurricanes, one of them could be a breakout player because, you know, they did have such an outstanding year. And then Kyle with the Ironmen too. The Ironmen are the longest running pro team ever, and if you don't have Kyle and a couple other dudes step up at that 4th event, then the Ironmen are maybe getting relegated down in the semi-pro division. You know, so that's kind of where we're at on that breakout player situation. That's kind of how I look at it. Yeah, so we're going to be bringing Jen in here shortly. We're going to let Connor go once we get a chance. But Connor, since we do have it looks like we're letting Connor go. So yeah, so we're going to be bringing Jen in
Thanks,
here.
boys.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah,
no, thank you so much, dude. Connor, hey, like I said, I don't want to be bringing your goggles around in a semi truck, but believe in yourself and your quest, bro. Like you got this. I'm excited to see you on Heat and listen and just be a sponge out there, dude, because you're gonna have 100%. A lot of chances on that team to thrive. So it's gonna be fertile ground. You're a potency being put into fertile ground. It's gonna be a badass year for you, bro. And I'm expecting big things. No pressure though.
All right, thank you, boys. Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Quinn, all right. So heading into our last guest here, talk to me about Jen. Talk to me about Jen Falk and the year that she had with her squad. WNXL, cool year over there. You know, mad respect to all the battles that went down on that side of things, but kind of hype this up for me a little bit.
Dude, so like kind of when the year started, I was super intrigued with the WNXL, and then kind of indirectly, I got a ton of exposure to it just because I'm, you know, pretty much constantly around the semi-pro field with my program. So naturally, I see a lot of WNXL games because they play on the same field on split decks. It's just exciting, man. Like it's one of those things where you kind of go into it with a certain expectation, and then you see these people, and I'm just like, I think a lot of these people would just kick the shit out of me on the field, like for sure. And then, I mean, you see someone like Jen Falk, and I'm like, this is somebody, you know, that could very well be joining the conversation as like an NXL pro soon. Like, I think to me, there's definitely some athletes that are going to be crossovers into the pro division and really make some waves at some point here in the near future. But it's just interesting. Like, there's so much offensive talent, especially in the WNXL. Like, there's so many players that just have this great sense of offensive timing and moving down the field. And Jen in particular, I think really fills that role. I mean, she's someone, if you need her to just, you know, make the snake off the break, she'll do it. If you need her to slow play the Dorito side, she'll do it. She's just so talented at so many levels, you know, and it was cool just seeing that first year. I mean, I know you kind of being the pro field commentator, you don't get to watch a lot of live WNXL, but I know you rewatch a lot. I mean, what were your thoughts on the WNXL this year in its inaugural season?
I just think it's really cool, man. I mean, when you look at Dallas 5 taking the first event in, you know, taking the first event, the Sunshine State Major, there's only 3 events. And then the Heroines step up and they take first at the Mid-Atlantic Major and the World Cup. It was just, to me, this was a long time coming. I mean, we've been, you know, I mean, I've said this to the point where people have talked shit about me saying this so much, but the gun is the great equalizer. So it doesn't really matter. Like, we don't care what color you are. We don't care where you come from. We don't care how big you are. We don't care how old or young you are. It doesn't matter your gender. Paintball is all about you keep what you kill. It's all about what you do on the field. Nothing else really matters. No paintball team I was ever on gave a shit about anything other than how good of a teammate you were and how lethal you were on the field. That's all that mattered. That's literally all that mattered. And so I love that about paintball. I love that about this game because that's one of the gifts of the game. It's all about coming together to be the best teammate you can and being the most lethal athlete you are with that paintball gun out on the field. So it was really interesting to kind of see how it progressed. And yeah, because, you know, where we're at with how things are, I mean, the semi-pro and the WNXL is going down on the other field. But I have my spies everywhere. So I get to hear all these different stories and people come and tell me these stories. So if we can bring Jen in, this would be great because I definitely, you know, would like to start including these stories. So Jen, how you doing tonight?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We're doing great. We're on the last bit of this monumental Iconic Awards show here, and we're glad you're anchoring the show. So yeah, I mean, I would like to hear it in your own words, just kind of how you felt the year went, and what did you do that you felt like basically brought you into this realm? Because, you know, you did something so good at some point in time that we are forced to recognize you as an individual and your team as a whole. So in your own words, how did you get to this spot? If you could give me like the 2, 3, 4 minute version of that, that would be great. But I would like to get this info because this is crucial to the history of our sport.
Yeah, sure. So I guess first and foremost, to answer your first question, which is how I thought the year went, you know, I think everybody came into this year with kind of, I would just say, not really knowing what to expect because it was brand new. So when I was first asked to be a part of this, I kind of was like, my instinct was, well, who can complain about playing more paintball? Because I was already playing with my own team in the NXL. And so I was like, well, I mean, what's better than 1 paintball team, 2 paintball teams? So, you know, I think a lot of us didn't really know what to expect. But I think at the end of the year, we can say that we were pleasantly surprised at, you know, how well the season went. And with each event, it got better and better. I think at the beginning, there was still a lot of things that had to get worked out between a bunch of the different teams and getting everything in line, and even to the webcast. And just, you know, as the season went on, you could see everything getting better, not only the teams, like, you know, the competition of the teams, but the webcast and everything that they're doing to make the Premier field top notch, not just for us, but for the semi-pro teams as well. It's a huge asset to be able to go back and watch your footage. So I'm super, super thankful. And I know we all are, to have that opportunity to be able to be on the webcast in front of everybody. And then to answer your second question, Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Maddie?
No. Yeah, please answer the second question. I feel like I could talk to you for a couple hours, and we just don't have that much
Hey, you
time.
can bring me on the show. I could talk for hours.
Oh, we'll definitely bring you on the show. But for this show, I'm like, I really got to figure out exactly how we're gonna, get as much out of we possibly can in like a 10-minute segment. Because what a crazy year for you guys. I mean, third, first, and then I kept asking, because I'm locked in the pocket, man. I barely have sometimes like 3-minute breaks. Just enough to like run, pee, come back, and get right back into it. Hey, welcome back. We're here. I mean, that's kind of my day. And then, but I would always be asking, hey, well, who's playing well? Yeah, I need teams and I need names of individuals. And I kept hearing your name. People kept bringing your name up. Oh, you got to, there's this woman, she plays for the Heroines. Her name's Jen Falk. She's legit. I kept hearing that over and over again with some other names out there. So I'm super glad that at the end of the year now we get to touch base on you and that you are nominated for this award, because we do want to give as much credit as we possibly can to half of the population that's now starting to play paintball. And I feel like this is an integral, people again are always like hashtag grow the game. Well, yeah, we can definitely grow the game by giving the females some attention over there. So I'm stoked that you're in this spot. But again, I tend to ramble, so I'm sorry, but continue to go on with your answer. My bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So to answer your question about, how I ended up here, I think that there is a lot to be said about consistency. And to that point, I think it's important to note that I didn't win any MVP awards this year with the Heroines, and the people that won those awards for the events that we won deserve those awards, hands down. But for me, it was just about showing up for the team and being consistent and basically always being a threat, being somebody that my team can count on, being alive, doing my job. And I think just having that consistency throughout the year and, being a good team player and just having the girls, all working as one, it just speaks for itself. And our results speak for themselves. At the first event, we only lost by 1 in the semis, and we almost hit the buzzer with, take it on. So it could have been, it's very close. I mean, paintball comes down to inches. So it could have been 3 wins, it's endless, but, I just think that just being the best player that you can be at all times is the key to, getting to this position, I guess.
Yeah, and Quinn, with the Heroine story, again, the first, the third, and then first, and then with Destiny taking 3 seconds in a row, which is just absolutely tragic. I've been in a situation where I've had to take 6 second places in a row so I can feel their pain. And then you had Vibe, which went, first, and then third, and then fourth, and then kind of everyone was filling it out there. So it is, the WNXL next year is going to be, even better than it was this year. But just your thoughts on kind of you putting together this breakout player side of things on the Iconic Award and wanting to kind of make sure that everyone's included.
Yeah, for sure. Like, kind of once the WNXL became a thing, that was one of my first thoughts, was like, what's the best way to kind of incorporate this in? So that's why, of course, like we just did a flat out WNXL Player of the Year award. But then, when I started thinking about like kind of breakout players, I looked like, why do we have to just contain this to the pro division, in itself? Like there's some incredible things happening over on the premier field as well that I think are worth noting and kind of recognizing. And kind of like with what Jen said too, like to me, a lot of what got her a nomination goes along with just the consistency, right? Especially when it's a league that's starting in its first year, there can be a lot of big kind of standout performances. Like I think a good one to kind of look at with that too is like Alexis Laser at the World Cup was like, wild. Like the one-on-ones just back-to-back pulling off to, basically help win the season title was huge. But to me, the biggest thing about it was that consistency. And if you look at, all the events and kind of watch the games, like Jen really is that one player that just brings that same level of intensity and can be relied on by her team. Like she was very much to me like the Archie of the WNXL this year.
Well, let's talk about, and Jen, I would love to get your thoughts on this and these other players, but we have Rosie McCurley, Brittany Vang, and then the Blanco sisters, which were big standouts for me because anytime that I kind of was watching those games, they're just unmistakable, 5 foot nothing running around out there all crazy. But it was really interesting to kind of see as we progress forward, because this is new for a lot of us. I was sending text messages out and to all the people that were running the teams, and I'm like, hey, you know, when these games end up on our field, I would like to have as much information as I possibly can. I don't have the luxury of being able to go down there and watch those games and see what's happening real time. So please feed me that info, because by the time it ends up on my field, I got my head wrapped around, you know, the 20 pro teams and the 200 players that are in the pro leagues. And then by the time it gets, you know, to the WNXL, it's like, all right, now I have, you know, basically a couple minutes to digest that information. So, but it's super fascinating to me as to how that's all developing over there. So maybe, Jen, again, we don't have forever, and this is maybe for a longer conversation at a later date, but as it developed throughout the year, I mean, how was it to live this firsthand, you know, to be there at the, you know, the genesis of the female division at that level of play, and to be there at, you know, at the tip of the spear as things went down and winning these tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was another one of the bigger reasons to, you know, when I agreed to play in the WNXL from the beginning was, I mean, this is groundbreaking. This is, you know, even if, you know, this looks tiny compared to where WNXL might be one day in 5 to 10 years, it's still going to be awesome to say, yeah, we were part of the very first instance of WNXL. And that's something that'll be nice to tell generations to come, is like, I was on the first ever winning team of the WNXL. So, you know, I could go on about that forever and ever and ever, but I did want to touch on the other nominees just because I think that's really important. And just first and foremost with the Blanco sisters, they are, I call them absolute menaces to society, because that's what they are. Anytime you see them lined up at the other side of the field, like, just, I don't even know what the solution is, but you got to get them out of there because they're coming, you know? So I can't praise the two of them enough. They're fantastic.
I swear when I watch them play,
in the league.
When I watch them play, they just remind me of like John Marquez, how they are. Like, they're just like, you know where they're going, and you just know they're going to make it, and you're not going to stop it.
Right,
so just for
honestly,
everyone, well, a lot of people don't know who John Marquez is necessarily, Quinn, you know, but it's one of those situations like everyone, Kenny Rosenberg back in the HK Army, like not every team, but some teams have these little tiny humans that run super fast, and they run a foot off the ground, and they're super hard to shoot, and they're hyper aggressive. And when you're, and like you said, Jen, they're just a menace. When you're playing with them, you're like, oh, playing against them, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, this is going to be such a pain in the ass to try to shoot these people, but I'm going to do my best. But you have to deal with them. And those are obviously great teammates to have on your side. Very difficult if they're your antagonist. They bring the best out of you. But yeah, they're just the perfect paintball size and just running, you know, just off the blades of grass and diving in. And it's just so hard to shoot, it looks like.
Yeah, they're effectively impossible to shoot off the break. When you, like, as a one, when I make my spot and I look up and one of them is coming out, I'm like, yes, you know, it's fantastic. Yeah, they're great. I can't say enough about them. But yeah, my own teammate Rosie. One thing I want to comment about Rosie is actually off the field stuff. Rosie is the captain of our team. She's a great leader. She has a great attitude, and I think that she is a very, very good example to other, you know, younger girls in the sport. You know, you can talk about her gameplay. You know, she's fantastic. She's been playing for a while. She will do anything. She will go anywhere. She doesn't argue. I mean, Brad might disagree, but Rosie's just fantastic. And, you know, I can't say enough good things about Rosie. And then lastly, I'll touch on B. I was very, very shocked, you know, when I first saw B play at the exhibition in 2021 at Cup. I was like, who is this girl that came out of nowhere? Like, I had no idea who she was. And then I realized she was Ben Challenger's girlfriend. I was like, okay, I'm putting it together. And of course, B came around and surprised everybody. I think nobody expected, you know, to see somebody grow that quickly. Because I know at the start of the year, she hadn't been playing that long. And she's made, you know, incredible leaps and bounds just from when she started playing. So props to B for, you know, making the list and being a core member of her team and keeping them, you know, at the top. So yeah, I honestly, I can't say thank you enough to you guys for putting not only myself on the list, but for putting this list together and recognizing the WNXL. Because like you said, Quinn, I think a lot of people, you know, don't realize how much work actually goes in, whether you're playing WNXL or NXL Pro. You know, people commit a lot of time to this, and it's nice to be recognized for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you said, it's been it's cool to kind of be at the precipice of this happening. Because I mean, you think back, like it's been what is it, 20? It's been 42 years since the first time a female stepped on a paintball field, and it took that long to get a pro division for it. But it's awesome that it's such a fantastic group of players to kind of take that lead and kind of push it forward.
Yeah, it is definitely really cool to see. What do you think the future is here? Just the immediate future. Obviously, it's conjecture and it's going to take a lot of time to build things. But just for 2023, this season upcoming here, Jen, are they adding another team? And we can kind of see here, and as we were talking about the potential players of the year with your teammate Rosie McCurley, Brittany Vang, B, and then the Blanco sisters. Who are just, like you said, a menace out there, really fun to watch play. I don't really feel like I had, I mean, you know, I saw you guys play. I saw all these people out there, you know, on center court, but I didn't get enough of a read on it to really make this decision. Like, how do you think this vote should go down, Jen? I mean, do you think this should be, like, who would you have vote for this? You know, the coaches maybe of the WNXL. Quinn, this is obviously a conversation for you as well too. But you know, when I'm looking at this one, I mean, all I can go off of was what I saw in the big pressure moments to win the tournaments, which is, you know, not exactly what happened throughout the entire time. Yeah, that's the biggest, most important moments. But Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you guys are talking about the people who vote for this, I was kind of torn because I know that you and Rich spend a lot of time in the booth and don't get a chance to, you know, come over to the other field. Obviously, the first person I can think of is Vince from Let's Talk Paintball. I know that he was the main commentator for the Premier Field, so I know he has watched a lot of the WNXL games. But I think you had already touched on it as well as reaching out to the team owners of all of these teams and perhaps the coaches. So each team maybe gets a certain amount of votes or something like that. I'm not totally sure what the best methodology is, but I definitely think, you know, getting some opinions from people who are able to watch them consistently might be a good idea, just because it is a tight race and all of these girls are excellent. So I'm sure you guys will come up with a perfect solution for this.
Yeah, all the other ones
so
I'm
it's
not
actually
that concerned about, but this one for sure. And then Quinn, so my bad, but I just want to throw that to you, you know, because you know, obviously you have more experience with the WNXL side of things because with the semi-pro stuff. But I mean, I would have to literally go off of what I've seen just in those pressure moments, and then I would have to reach out to the other, you know, to the movers and shakers and the prime movers on and those other teams. But you know, Quinn, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting you mentioned that because this was something I've been thinking about like a lot. A big thing I've heard, you know, since I've started the awards has always been players asking like, hey, can we get some sort of involvement with player votes, coach votes, whatever it may be. So kind of where I ended up with the WNXL vote is since it's such a newer league and there's such a small kind of information base for it, it's going to kind of almost be like my test run for involving player and coach voting within the dynamics of the Iconic Awards. Because obviously it's a little easier, especially with the WNXL, because you know you're only managing 8 teams there, or now 9 teams. You know, instead of 20 teams and 200 and plus players in the NXL right now. So it's going to go along to help kind of further push the Iconic Awards ahead to getting more involvement from players and coaches who know these nominees best. And then B, I think it's going to get us our best possible winner for a WNXL Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think that's great. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the entire season has been with WNXL. It's all been trial and error. And I think that, you know, finding the right balance between who's, you know, a collective opinion or vote, I should say. Like I said, it is hard to find the right solution, but I think, you know, with time we'll come to a decision on, you know, the best method for that. But I trust you guys. I think we're in good hands and, you know, looking forward to seeing how you guys pull it off. So good luck to you guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This was one of those ones where I was like, man, we got to figure this out because I don't want to be our ultimate arbiter of something that I never want to be the ultimate arbiter of something that I don't feel as expert on. I'm always trying to look to people that know more than I do about certain things. If I do feel like I am an expert on it, then I will definitely weigh my opinion on, which is a lot of these other specific instances. But because this is just such an evolving narrative and such an evolving thing that, you know, I really do appreciate what it is. I mean, which is really cool. So yeah, I think Jen, if we could just maybe get your last thoughts before we let you go and then close this show out. It's been a crazy show with, you know, tons of different guests and I can't wait to see how this is all going to shape out here in the next couple of months. before we head into the 2023 season and we give these awards out. But just maybe your last thoughts on playing this inaugural year of the WNXL in this historic season. Obviously, you guys were the champions, and obviously we're giving you your credit. I've been hearing so many good things about you and your game, and I've seen it. But what do you think's coming up next year?
Sure. So I'm not really sure what all I'm supposed to say, but I guess I'll ask for forgiveness and not permission. They are expanding the WNXL league. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to get in too much trouble, but it is expanding, and the goal is to also have an amateur division for WNXL, which would be women's 5-man, because right now the only other division for women outside of the WNXL is open 3-man. So they are going to be implementing a women's only 5-person division that is going to have certain regulations where you can only have one WNXL pro player that plays down there. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into it. So they are working on expanding it to try to grow the actual WNXL league in years to come. So it's baby steps. I do think that, within 5 to 10 years, I'm hoping that it's, great and huge and we've improved. But for now, it's baby steps and making sure that, it's a quality league and everything runs smoothly. So hats off to everybody that's been involved with making it happen. Tom Cole, obviously my team owner, Anthony Vitale and Lori Miller, and of course, all the others who are putting in the time and effort to make this happen for all of us. So super, super grateful to everybody for the opportunity, including you guys, to be on here and for the nomination.
Quinn, any last thoughts for Jen before we let her go and kind of cap this all off with this monumental amount of nominees for all these crazy awards?
I mean, honestly, the same thing I try to tell everybody, just keep killing it. Fuck what anyone else says, tells you to do. I want you to play a certain way. Just keep killing it and do your thing because you've been doing a great job at it.
Hey, I appreciate it. I will say, and I didn't get to touch on this, but I was shocked when I saw myself listed in the Breakout Player alongside Lackey. Lackey's a local to me out here in North Carolina, so I was like, oh look, there I am next to Jared Lackey. So shout out to Jared.
Who's winning a one-on-one between you two?
God, I don't know. I'd be like, they did the coin thing, like the gold coins. And they gave us gold coins, the WNXL players. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go lose these to somebody, So I've been holding on tight to those. So I'm not about to go challenge Jared Lackey quite yet. But yeah, huge shout out to him and all the NC North Carolina ballers out there. But yeah, seriously, thank you for the nomination in that category as well. That was a pleasant surprise and means a lot to me. And because just putting in a lot of work and like to see that it's paying off to some degree. So but the grind doesn't stop, so as we all say, so back to the board and on to the next one.
Hey, you guys are building the foundation upon which the future of female paintball is going to be built. It's all happening right now, and you and your team are a big part of it. So yeah, props to you, props to Anthony and everyone behind the Heroines and everyone behind the WNXL. It's going to be really cool to watch next year. I'm really excited to see how it all shakes out. I'm sure you guys are hoping to stay on top, but you never really know how it's going to go down. So Jen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so Iconic Awards, Quinn here, as we kind of close things out. I mean, do you have any final thoughts for this show? I mean, anything that and did we miss anything as it's kind of going down?
I think we hit every single thing other than the Divisional Team of the Year award, which if we want to just squeeze in a quick blurb about that, that was a new thing we added just because, again, Divisional Paintball is any given year is like a Wild West shootout. It's always a fun time. There's always a lot of kind of interpersonal kind of rivalries between teams. So I thought that was one that'd be cool to touch on. Obviously, also Notorious leads that list off as the semi-pro winner. And they're, of course, a favorite to win that. And then additionally, in the semi-pro division, we also have Paintball Fit and Blast Camp, 2 other phenomenal programs in semi-pro. And then we look down at Division 2 and Division 3 programs, the KC Missouri All-Stars run by Todd Boyer and New York Wrecking Crew, which is they had one of the historically greatest seasons in divisional paintball history.
I mean, that's a great list. PB Fit and Blast Camp led this entire narrative for most of the year, but Austin Notorious just stayed relentless, and they were able to finally win that pro spot over Fit and Blast Camp. Because I mean, if you put a gun to my head at the beginning of the year and said, you know, hey, Fit or Blast Camp, or do you think Notorious has a chance? I mean, you would have been a fool not to pick either Fit or Blast Camp. But that's just a testament to Notorious's will to put themselves in that position and to persevere. And then, yeah, with KC Missouri All-Stars, I got a sweet koozie that says "This is not a beer" on it, and Todd Boyer's done an amazing job with the KC Missouri All-Stars. You know, they were able to persevere out there. That's a team I think we're going to be hearing a little bit more about. They have an amazing facility, and they're just a kind of a fun group of paintball dudes. So we'll see. I mean, this is definitely one of those things. We talk about the future all the time. This is the future of the higher divisions. You know, I mean, when you get Fit and Blast Camp, it's not going to be a shocker if one of those teams goes up to pro. We will see Notorious in pro, and then with Wrecking Crew and Missouri All-Stars, then I've been hearing a lot of things behind the scenes about how crazy semi-pro and the top-level divisional ball is getting for 2023. So, I mean, I think that might be my last question to you here, Quinn, before we sign off, is since you are involved in the semi-pro division, how do you think that is going to, go down in 2023?
Dude, semi-pro this year is going to be like, I mean, to not say it bluntly, like a fucking show, man. Like, there is so many pros coming down to semi-pro and so many guys coming out of the woodworks. Like, I mean, us personally as newbies, like, we're coming into this year, like, with a pretty stark focus of, like, we need to step it up because everybody else is. I mean, PB Fit's going to be great. Blast Camp picking up Velez and Hogue is going to be a pretty nasty team. So I think this might be one of the most vicious years and most competitive years in the division in a while.
I hope so. I really hope so, because that's what's needed. Again, people keep asking me, oh, what happens when these dynasty guys retire? What happens when, these guys age out? Oh, paintball's getting older. I'm like, so what? It's always next man up. I've been hearing the ridiculous story of paintball's demise since I was 16 years old. That was 30 years ago. So, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm looking towards these semi-pro divisions, these top level pros, looking what the WNXL is doing and looking at what, these teams coming up, as they will be the teams that take over in pro once these, legends can't do it anymore. The legends are obviously still getting it done. So come and take that from them. They're at the top of the mountain. They have, vicious broadswords and they're cutting heads off. And if you want to take that spot, you need to, you're going to have to be a beast, and it's not going to be easy, but eventually it will happen. Who is it going to be? We will see. It's going to be really fun to watch. Quinn, thank you for all the work that you do at Iconic Paintball and putting all these awards together. It's going to be kind of fun to kind of see how this all breaks out and who's going to be taking this. Obviously, there's some favorites in these. Notorious with the divisional team of the year, the fact that they were able to persevere, fight through Fit, fight through Blast Camp, and win that pro division, or win that spot in the pro division, probably going to be getting that nod. But there's some of these brackets here are going to be a little bit tighter of a race. So yeah, Quinn, thank you so much for all the work that you do. When are we expecting to get, for people wondering when we're going to be giving these awards out, when are we going to be doing that show, you think?
Yeah, so typically voting last year at least seems to take about 2 or 3 weeks. It's a pretty brutal process with a lot of discussion. So hoping, rounding out towards the end of the month so we can kind of, reflect, talk about it here over the next couple of weeks on other shows and kind of, get the voting dialed in on the judges and get the fans involved and, have a great time to finish the year out and get ready for the next season.
All right, man. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here to Go Sports Live with the Iconic Awards. And make sure you check out Defining Moments, episode 1. We're working on episode 2 right now. I'm actually going to be recording some voiceover for episode 2 here after the conclusion of this show. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy 2023 season in the NXL, and we'll be getting to these Iconic Awards here in a couple weeks. Again, Quinn, mad props to you and the crew. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
See ya.
Alex, he just shows up to Chicago with fire. I mean, he was a molten piece of rock in a body.
To say that I was confident going into the first event would be an absolute lie.
It meant a lot just to see that boy hit that shot, dude. That was crazy.
San Diego Dynasty, 4 major events in a row.
It's a unique opportunity to be me on this team, you know?
A scrappy new squad here for the Ironman, taking down Dynasty, taking down X Factor. And here we go, Edmonton Impact and Legion to Edmonton Impact. They take 2 wins in a row